The following presentation was originally delivered as part of the Ohio Virtual Tax Academy 2025 September Conference on September 9th and 10th of 2025, and all information is accurate as of that date. Thank you for watching.
Hello, and thank you for attending the Ohio Virtual Tax Academy. My name is Patricia Harris, and I'm the Tax Commissioner for the state of Ohio. At the Ohio Department of Taxation, our mission is to provide education, outreach, and exceptional service to Ohioans. The goal of the OVTA is to help you understand Ohio's tax law, your tax responsibilities, and provide insight from experts at the department. Whether you're a tax practitioner, a small business owner, or simply looking to expand your knowledge of Ohio taxes, I hope our presentation accomplishes all of this and more. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now, without any further ado, we will begin the program with our first presentation of the day. Speaking to us from our OH-Tax eServices team, I would like to introduce Andrew Bick and Zachary Greenlee.
Hello, and welcome to the September 2025 OVTA. Our topic for this is OH-Tax eServices. My name is Zachary Greenlee. I'm one of the business analysts for this part of the rollout, working to bring some new taxes and changes into eServices. All right, so a couple disclaimers before we begin. Just know that any taxpayer data that you'll see is made up. It is fictitious for the purposes of this demonstration. And also, the information you'll see today does represent a point in time. So because we are currently in development, things are subject to change as we get closer to our release. All right, let's begin. So if you're familiar, this is the first page you'll see when going to OH-Tax eServices. If you see the red cardinal, know that you're in the right place. We do utilize the single sign-on for OHID. So if you're familiar with other websites such as the Ohio Business Gateway and use logins for that, you'll be able to use the same login to get into OH-Tax eServices. We also have our self-help panel here that you can see. It will help distinguish between some guest functionality as well as what might be needed for logging in or what you'll need to log in order to do. And we also provide some tutorials for various tax types in OH-Tax eServices, as well as for individual income tax. So please do check those out if you get stuck on anything, and I hope they're able to answer some questions. All right, so why OH-Tax? What are the objectives with this system? Well, we want to improve our taxpayer service by really creating a seamless and user-centric experience. We want to have things in one place. We don't want you to have to go to various different websites in order to deal with many of the tax types that you need to for OH-Tax eServices. As a part of that, we do have to modernize and consolidate many of our technical systems. So bring it up to date, bring things in one place. And what that allows us to do is minimize a lot of the technical risks that we have by, again, bringing things all into one place, into one system, as well as helps us increase our compliance with the tax laws and improves our own internal efficiencies and reduces many of the manual processes that we have. Also, of course, as always, we want to make sure that we're keeping taxpayer information secure. So, what does this enhanced taxpayer experience look like? Well, we have our quite robust taxpayer dashboard where you'll be able to see the different businesses and tax accounts that you have access to, as well as be able to see many of the returns that are in OH-Tax and any balances that may exist in any periods, as well as many of the notifications that you might receive from our department. We also have the ability to file and amend returns, even for previous periods, maybe even for periods prior to coming into OH-Tax eServices. For example, if you're filing a PTE return or you filed a PTE return and you missed a credit, you'd be able to come into OH-Tax eServices and file that amended return to take that credit. And do know that the filing through OH-Tax eServices is free. Next, we have the e-correspondence. So this is the ability to send us some additional details, information directly through OH Tax eServices so that you don't have to send things either through an email or by mail. You can skip that process and send it directly to us so that an agent can review it. Next, we have our two-way secure messaging. You can send us a message without having to be on a phone call with an agent, and an agent will be able to respond to you within the following business days. Tax preparer access. So OH Tax eServices doesn't just work for owners of businesses or employees of a business. It can also be used by tax preparers and representatives. They can come into the system, and if they've gotten access, they'll be able to do a lot of the same functionality that an owner or employee would be able to do. Of course, we have our digital assistant pilot as well as live chats. So if you get stuck on a page or aren't quite sure where to find something, I do encourage you to ask Pilot to see if he can help you out. And if not, then we do have live chats available where agents might be able to help you quickly navigate the website. Next, we have our dynamic help. So that is mostly for our own internal purposes. We have a robust library of information that an agent would be able to go through and review in the instance that they need to quickly look up some information in order to assist you. Next, we have the snapshot screen share. So if you're familiar with the Ohio Business Gateway, it's a very similar functionality. You'll be able to give us permission to share your screen if you'd like, and an agent will be able to see exactly what you see, help you navigate through the website. Just know that any secure information, such as banking information or login information, won't be shown as a part of the screen share process. And lastly, we have our phone integration. So this touches on the ability for individuals, people, representatives that are calling in to put in some information, if you're familiar with our disclosure process, to help make those phone calls smoother with those agents. And again, this is all part of bringing everything into one place. So what does the Release 3 project scope look like? Well, our planned go live date is November 12th of 2025. And with it, we are bringing in 5 taxes. First being the International Fuel Tax Agreement, or IFTA tax, Pass-Through Entity and Fiduciary Income Tax, Alcoholic Beverage Excise Tax, Municipal Electric Light and Telephone, or MELT, income taxes, and severance tax for your wells and mines. And as a reminder, you can access OH Tax eServices through that link that you can see, tax.ohio.gov/OH Tax. And then some quick reminders. Release 1, when we introduced OH Tax, it went live on September 5th of 2023. With it, we brought in OH Tax and introduced individual and school district income tax filings. Next, we had our second release, which went live on December 9th of 2024. With it, we brought in some of our biggest business taxes, such as sales and use tax, as well as employer withholding, and a couple of excise taxes. So if you were not aware that those taxes currently are in OH Tax eServices, I would encourage you to go ahead and sign up to get access. And just know that all of these taxes will have electronic filing, payment, transcript, and notices available through eServices. So what did Phase 3 look like? Well, our project started in January of 2025, and again, our go-live date is November 2025, so that gave us 11 months to implement those 5 taxes into the system. As you can see, in the middle, we had the definition phase where we basically just wanted to make sure we talked through all the technical details to make sure that the system was designed to do what it needs to do to handle these taxes. And then in July 2025, we started our testing just to make sure that the system's really going to work the way that we intend. Calling attention to that arrow at the bottom that's marked as conversion, we did start that early in the process. So what we do is we want to make sure that all of our legacy information can be brought over into the new system in OH Tax eServices so that we don't leave anything behind. As a part of that, we are planning on doing 15 mock conversions again, taking some legacy data, putting it into the new system, and making sure that everything is complete and accurate once you see it in OH Tax eServices. All right, so some conversion highlights for this release. Our plan is to bring over 30,000 OBG users from the Ohio Business Gateway, including those that were using OBG for IFTA and severance. We also have 270,000 taxpayers that we're bringing in. Of those for PTE, we have 193,000 that are being converted as brand new taxpayers, with 50,000 being converted on existing taxpayers, ones that have already been brought over into OH Tax eServices. And only of those 50,000, only 4,000 of those actually have web logons, meaning we're actually bringing in a lot of people into OH Tax eServices, which we'll be able to access eServices for PTE. So there's a lot of new people that are in this. With this, we also have, as a part of the conversion, 1.7 billion records that we converted, and then 20 billion in financials that we brought over. So, some feedback that we got from Release 2 or some stats. As of August 5th of 2025, we processed 1.3 million sales tax returns. And then feedback we received just in the month of July of 2025 was 6,500 ratings with an average of 4.4 stars, with 5,000 being at 5 stars. For our employer withholding IT 941 or our annual reconciliation return, we processed 103,000 of those returns. And the feedback on that was an average of 4.2 stars with 3,500 submissions. Please, if you do have some feedback as you're going through the system, please make sure to give that to us, as it is very valuable to us. We want to make sure that we're continuing to improve the system and listen to your feedback to make the adjustments that we need to. So, as a part of that, wanted to go over some items for OH Tax eServices navigation. So, for filing previous returns in OH Tax. So, as you see there, we have an account panel. This is one specifically for an employer withholding account. You can see on that account panel, there's the link called View Returns and Period Balances. You'll click on that link under the relevant tax account, and that'll give you a list of all the previous periods in OH Tax eServices, where you'll be able to file returns, amend returns, request transcripts, things of that nature. And the periods that you'll be able to see is generally up to 4 years, depending on the tax type. We also added our instructions page here, so this will be something new with this rollout. This is not going to be for every return or request or things of that nature, mostly for registrations. Basically, it's going to let you know what the request is for, what will be happening as a part of that process, and what information you might need in order to complete that request. We know that it might be frustrating if you get through the process and then find out you need something halfway through. Next, touching on make a payment, the payment options that we have in OH Tax eServices. So we have account payments, return payments, and bill and assessment payments. So starting with the bill and assessment payments, if you receive a bill or assessment from us, you'll want to utilize that letter ID or the assessment in order to make a payment directly towards that balance. The return payments are there specifically for returns with balances, or maybe if you want to prepay on a return. Do know that we still need a return. The payment is not a substitute for a return. We do need to have both a return and the payment, as we need to know where to send that payment to, what that payment is actually for. And lastly, I'll touch on the account payments. So I would utilize this in the instance where I have an open balance already on my account. I already know what I need to pay and what it's for. Know that payments or that account payments are going to be directed directly towards any open balances. So again, just caution, if you do an account payment option, it will go directly towards any open balances that we might find on the tax account. So, what's new with Phase 3? Well, starting with some guest user functionality, we have PTE payments. So a guest can come in and make a PTE payment. Maybe it's an estimated payment that you need to make. Does not require logging into the system. Do know that you can also make these payments if you are, or if it's for a brand new pass-through entity or fiduciary account. Next, we have the IFTA single trip permit accounts. You'll be able to utilize these to request a permit either for yourself or for someone else. Again, does not require a login. And once you complete the process, you'll actually be able to get a link directly to download that permit, as well as we'll send a link to that permit, or excuse me, we'll send a physical copy of the permit to the address provided. And of course, we have payments, respond to a letter or notice, and the interest calculator. All of the guest functionality will be updated for the new taxes coming with this rollout. All right, so a big announcement, or a big change that's coming with OH Tax eServices. Ohio Business Gateway will no longer be managing the access in OBG. So OBG will no longer be managing the access for OH Tax eServices. This change has not gone live yet. It will be coming on November 12th of 2025. So if you go into OBG right now, you'll still need to do the same processes that you're doing now. And it only affects taxes that are implemented into OH Tax. So if you're a person that still needs to file for the commercial activity tax, you'll still need to go through the Ohio Business Gateway in order to do that. This does mean, again, that all taxpayer and tax accounts are managed in one place in OH Tax eServices. So you'll be able to register new businesses and tax accounts directly through OH Tax, and there'll be no need to go into the Ohio Business Gateway to give someone access to the business in order for them to actually get to it in eServices. As a part of this, we will develop new ways to access businesses, which we will be demonstrating later on, and you'll be able to see. And we also are going to be carrying over any existing access, so no need to fear. Anything that you have set up right now should carry over with this next rollout. So where will you find these new links? You'll be able to see them directly under Manage My Profile. So you'll just click on that link up there in the top right. You can see under the banner and the question mark and person icons. You'll click on Manage My Profile and then Additional Services to find those links. So one of the new requests that we have is to delegate or send an invitation via email. So you'll set up the different access that you want to give a person. It can be for multiple businesses and tax accounts at once. You won't have to do the request multiple times for multiple accounts. It can all be done in one. The invitation can be revoked at any time, and the sender will be notified once the invitation has been accepted and the access has been granted. And if a preparer has the correct permissions to do this, they can also send these invitations out as well. Additionally, requesting access to a business, this is going to change as well. This is going to specifically be for accounts under an FEIN. This will be done strictly on your own, so it'll be a self-service option. There's no need for an individual to actually approve the request. If you have all the information there, you can get access to the account right away. Do know that the access is going to be granted by tax group. So we have, for instance, one group is sales and use tax, as well as employer withholding. If you get access to one of the tax accounts in that group, you'll get access to all of them through this request. And if you already have access to the business, you can also use this request to access the tax accounts under that business. And this can be done by owners, officers, employees, or preparers, representatives. Anyone can use this option. So now we'll be going on to our demo. So Andy and I will be showing off the new changes that we have, as well as some basic navigation. Please do know that the demonstrations are a pre-recording, but I'll go ahead and hand it off to Andy to get us started.
Welcome to our demo portion for our Release 3 OVTA for OH Tax eServices. Today we are actually going to be showing you a little bit for how OH Tax eServices is going to look for you when you actually log in later this year in November. So a few housekeeping items though before we get into the really fun demo portions of this. First thing is, we are actually showing you a test region for OH Tax, and with that, that means we will be seeing taxpayer data in the system. However, don't worry for any of you that have any disclosure processes or anything like that for your CPA form, or frankly, if you just don't want to see taxpayer data, it's not real data. Everything is fictitious, it's made up. I think that'll be pretty obvious once you start to see some of the names and addresses that we use, but everything is made up. You do not need to worry about that. In addition, our second housekeeping item that we do want to mention before we actually show anything is that this is a test region, as I mentioned, and we are still currently making updates. We do think that this is very similar to what will be going live later this year in November. However, there could be a slight few updates, some spelling corrections, if you see any of those, maybe a few verbiage, commas might be added. Overall, we think it will be very similar, but just know it still is a work in progress, so some things may be updated as we see it later this year. And now that we got all the super fun housekeeping items out of the way, first thing that we're going to do, we're just going to go take you on a trip to see some of the basic navigations for what OH Tax eServices has to offer to you. So what you can see on our screen here, I've gone ahead and logged in. As we can see here in the top left, JustaPrep is the name of the account that I have logged into. As I mentioned, very creative names and fake data. For Justa here, we can see Justa has access to 3 different businesses in OH Tax. They have access to Baker's Dozen, Business Corporation, and Testing Inc. They will be able to click on any of these and navigate to them, which I will show in 1 second. But before we go into any specific business, other thing that I want to call out here, as we see here in the top on the far right, we have a Representative Center link. When we click on our Representative Center is something that we built for, as you may have guessed, representatives. But what this does is this shows a comprehensive view for each and every company that the account has access for. So the web logon has access to 3 businesses. So if we click on the view letters and notices or respond to letters and notices, you will be able to see all the letters for every business that this web logon has. In addition to, you can see any messages or send us a message, or view some of our other business access and account management access, which we will get into in a little bit. But just know, if you ever want to manage multiple of your clients, multiple of your companies all at one time, the Representative Center is a very good resource for you to be able to do that. Now moving back over to our All tab, we'll go ahead and dive into a specific business, which is Business Corporation. And we will see, we have access to see 2 different accounts for this business. We have access to a pass-through entity or PTE account, and we also have access to a public utility excise tax account. Some of the highlights of what you can see on this summary tab are you can see whether or not the account has a balance due. So in this case, unfortunately, our PTE tax, not the best. They owe us some money, unfortunately, which we'll get into, but owe us some money here. But the public utility tax is paid up, so that's good. They don't owe anything there. But we do actually allow them to make payments or view any returns and period balances and more ... for some other miscellaneous items, which depends on the tax type for what you're looking at. But feel free to take a look at that once we get live. Other tabs that we want to do for our basic navigation, we have an Important Notifications tab, which, as you kind of may guess based upon the name, gives you some important notifications that we think that we want to draw your attention to. In this case, you'll see the Business Corporation has an unread letter or notice. So we sent out a letter to the company that hasn't been read yet. And they have a couple of years returns that haven't been filed yet, just to let them know that. Last tab that we want to mention here, we'll go ahead and skip the Settings tab. But under our Additional Services tab, we will see very similar tabs to what I showed you under the Representative Center. That is done intentionally. What this one is particular is the View Letters and Notices and Respond to a Notice. This would be specifically for Business Corporation, not for all of the companies that they have access to, which is what the difference between this and the Rep Center is. But if we wanted to click on View Letters and Notices, you can actually see we give you a live real-time look at any and every notice that the Ohio Department of Taxation has sent out to a business. So we can see here, if we remember, an initial billing notice because they owed us money for the PTE account. You can actually click on this and see the individual billing notice live on the web, which we think is a very fun feature and a big improvement for Release 3 and anything that you might have seen through OBG. In addition, similar to what we saw before, if they want to send us a web message, they are able to do that. register for account, do some business access management, some different account transactions. We do offer a little bit more variety and a lot more resources here on the Additional Services tab than you would have seen on the Summary tab. Last thing that we do want to point out here is we are actually doing some new stuff with our access management for Release 3. So any of you who may have logged into OH Tax eServices for previous releases for either PIT, maybe an employer withholding or sales tax account, where you would actually gain access to the businesses and the accounts is actually changing with Release 3. So we can see here under the Additional Services tab, the only thing that we're going to let you request access for under this specific tab is going to be getting access to accounts for this specific business. But if you want to get access to a different business, the way that you're going to do that now for Release 3 is actually under this Manage My Profile link on the top right of the page. So under Manage My Profile, if we go to the Additional Services tab here, we will see two new tiles that you will have to access taxpayer information. Specifically, we'll have Business Access Management, which will allow you to access accounts under a FANE or set up a business with us, and the Individual Access Management, which will allow you to, as you guessed, access individuals. So you'll be able to either access your own personal Social Security number and your own personal information, or request access for a business under a different Social Security number. Think sole props or other companies that have sales tax accounts under Social Security numbers is the main one. But that is everything that I wanted to highlight for our overall view for how OH Tax works in the navigation for it. Next up for what we're going to do is we're going to get into some real fun stuff. Those real fun stuff that we're going to get through is going to be access management. So as I mentioned before, for Release 3, we are doing new things for access management. So how you request access to accounts, companies, and businesses. So what we did is we've gone ahead for this demo to set up some common scenarios that we think that you may actually do in the real world in November. So we wanted to go ahead and give you a preview for how those are actually going to look. So some of the common scenarios that we're going to go through for this demo today. We're going to request access to your own personal individual account. Seems important. Everybody has to file. Second thing that we're going to do, accessing an individual or business operating under a Social Security number. So accessing somebody else's Social Security number information. Then we're going to show you how to register a business on OH Tax. And then two new things that we really want to call attention to. We are actually allowing people to delegate access. So we will be going through that. And the last is how you just request access for yourself to a business under an FEIN. So let's go ahead and get into the real fun demo stuff. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to request access to yourself. So scenario we have set up here. John wants to go ahead and file his individual income taxes on OH Tax eServices. How is that going to happen? Well, first thing that's going to happen is John's going to need to complete the OH ID verification quiz. Then he's going to need to enter in some personal details and some account details for his own personal Social Security number. And then we're going to validate everything. Once everything's validated, he will go ahead and get access to his account. So without further ado, let's see how that actually looks on OH Tax eServices. All right, so we have gone ahead and logged into a new account here on OH Tax eServices. So we can see before, as opposed to our Just a Prep, we have now gone into a John Filer. Again, we're very creative at the Ohio Department of Taxation, as you could tell from our names. So under John Filer, we do see a little bit of a different summary page than we did for our Just a Prep. So as opposed to our last account that I showed you for the overall navigation, John doesn't have access to anybody right now. So when he's logged into his account on the summary page, we don't have any businesses to give him access to. So instead, we have a new thing for Release 3 where we're trying to give them access to the account right away. So what we can do here is, one, verify my identity, which we'll go ahead and go through for our scenario. But other things that we can do without verifying my identity, we can actually access accounts under a different Social Security number, and then submit the access PIN. Both of those we will be doing in one more scenario if you just hold on. Other things that we do here allow you to access different accounts under FEIN specifically, or set up a business with OH Tax and ODT. But for this specific scenario, if we remember, John wants to file for himself. So the first thing that we make you do actually need to take your OHID verification quiz. So to do that, click on our Verify My Identity link from our top panel here, and you will get navigated over to OHID's Identity Confirmation Identity Verification Quiz. After you read all of this information, when we start the quiz, do ask you for some own personal information. In this case, Social Security number, you do actually need to input that. A street address, which I will put in my definitely 100% legitimate address here. That's definitely not fake or made up. And then an option to put in a mobile phone. And for the purposes of the demo today, I'm not going to input my phone number. Go ahead and continue. Everything looks great. I had A+ typing. And after this, because we are in a test region, as I mentioned before, OHID will give me an identity confirmed message despite the fake address. It's because it's a test region. Don't worry, in the real world, one fake street will not get you an identity confirmed thing. But when we click on our continue button, we will get navigated back to OHTax eServices, and you will notice that that top Verify My Identity panel is no longer displayed, and we have a new link here under our request access, which is access your individual account. So now that we've taken the ID verification quiz, let's go ahead and access our own individual account. So as you'll see, we have a little instruction page here. We do know that with the access management especially, can be some confusion. A lot of the links have fairly similar names. So we wanted to try to help the taxpayers of Ohio know what they're doing when they click on each individual link. So we added a little instruction page getting started for this with specific item here, trying to give them an idea for what's going to go on here, if you're going to need any specific information, and what happens next once you go ahead and finish this request. Went ahead and read all of those. Everything looks great. Move on to the next page where we just ask for your own personal information. So specifically with this one, John Filer, we do actually pre-populate that information from whatever is linked to your OHID. In this case, it is correct. So let's go ahead and enter our Social Security number. Our Social Security number is correct. We did make sure of that. All right, so the next thing that we need you to do is we just need you to verify and validate your account. Because we are actually going to be giving you access to your own personal information, specifically the school district and income tax information, we do want you just to do one more check just to make sure that you're actually you before we give you access to the account. So in this particular case for the demo, we went ahead and we set up a letter ID for our account validation method. So go ahead and enter in your letter ID. As soon as we verify that's good, you are done with that step. Step that we have on here, we do actually just ask you if you want to opt into electronic correspondence. So if you're tired of getting things paper through the mail and you want to receive them online on OHTax eService as well, which I strongly recommend, we do actually give you that option. And because it's great, who doesn't like electronic email? Go ahead and acknowledge that I've read everything, which I totally did. And then we will go ahead and say that I accept. We'll opt into our mailing. And then we get our review page, which is pretty standard for any request that we're going to be doing today. So you will be seeing this page a lot, but we just want to give you one more chance, make sure everything is good, give you a chance to review everything, finalize everything before you went and submit your request. Since everything is great, we're going ahead and ready submit. So we'll click on the submit button on the bottom right, confirm. We went ahead and review everything, assuming everything works out, which it does in this case because we typed in everything correctly. We'll see a new summary screen for John. John no longer has those access panels that we saw before when we initially had login. Now we can see we have access to John's individual and school district income tax accounts, and he's actually paid up as well. Good job, John. And that's all for our first scenario. So moving on back to our PowerPoint here, we will see our second scenario. Our second scenario, if you remember from before, is we're going to be requesting access to a different individual Social Security number. So for this one in particular, we're going to use our same logon that we had before with John, but now John also wants to file for his friend I'm a taxpayer. So I'm has never actually logged into OHTax eServices, so what's actually going to happen? What are we actually going to see with our steps here? Well, steps that we're going to see here are going to see John submit an access request for IMA's information. going to enter in all the personal details and the account details for IMA to make sure that everything is up on the up and up. Then, because IMA has never logged in before, IMA is actually going to receive a copy of a letter in the mail having an access code. Once IMA receives that access code, she will go ahead and give that access code over to John. John will go back into OH Tax eServices and submit that access code to get the access to IMA. For those of you who have been with OH Tax for the last 2 releases, know that this is a very similar process to what we released for the last 2. There's a few updates which I will show along and highlight along the way, but it should be pretty similar to you. But without further ado, let's go ahead and flip back to OH Tax eServices, and we'll go ahead and show you how that actually looks. So, again, our same person that we had before, John. John now wants to get access to IMA. If we remember from the original navigation steps, our new way to gain access to somebody else is going to be under Manage My Profile. So under the Manage My Profile link here in the top right, and Additional Services, we will now be able to access accounts under a Social Security number. So after we click on that, again, just like when we were requesting access to ourselves, we have an introduction/getting started instructions page, just to let you know what you're going to be doing in this step, making sure that, frankly, you're in the right place. We don't want you guys confused. I definitely am in the correct place. This all makes sense to me. I have everything that we need, so let's get started. Going to need to know the taxpayer's information that we're actually requesting the access to. Kind of makes sense. So we'll go ahead and ask us what the taxpayer's last name is. As we remember, it was I'm a taxpayer. And what's the taxpayer's Social Security number? Assuming that you enter in everything correctly on there, which we did. We'll go on to next step, which we just asked for what your own personal information is. We just want to know what actually is your relationship to IMA. Well, in this case, if we remember our scenario, John's just a friend. So select friend from our relationship dropdown. Move on to our next step, which I do want to pause for a second because this is actually something new with Release 3 that you may have not seen before with our initial releases. So we have an option here. Specifically, the option that we have is, are you requesting access just to the personal income and school district income taxes, or are you also requesting access to some business tax accounts under the Social Security number as well? Again, one of the more common ones that we would have is, let's say you have a sole prop under sales tax account under your individual Social Security number. This would actually be the way that you would request access to see that sales tax account under the Social Security number. There are a few other account types as well that do actually operate under Social Security numbers. All of them would be done through the same request as well. However, if you remember for our demo, John only wants access to personal income and school district tax. So yeah, I want access to my individual tax accounts. I don't need access to any business tax accounts. And our third question here, should John actually have the ability to manage access to other users for this taxpayer? This will be through a delegate access request, which we will be showing off in a couple of scenarios from now. But for the sake of the demo, yeah, we trust John. John should be able to delegate access to other people. So let's go ahead and click on yes for that. Move on here. Which tax years does John want access to? Suspect most of the time people are just going to request access to all years, but just know if you only need 24 in the future or prior to 2021, we do actually allow you the option to do that. But we'll request access to all and move on to our review page. As I mentioned, one last chance just to make sure everything looks good, didn't make any mistakes prior to actually submitting the access request. To me, everything looks good. This is exactly what we want to submit. So go ahead and click on our submit button on the bottom. Get our confirmation page letting us know that ODT and the Ohio Department of Taxation has actually received your request. And as I mentioned now is the waiting game for the letter to actually get to IMA and item to pass that back. And through the magic of technology, we went ahead and time flipped forward really fast, and we already got our letter in the mail, and IMA has actually responded to John and given him a copy of the access code. Amazing how time flies in these fun demos. So, as you remember from our PowerPoint that we had, Next thing that we're going to have to do is John's just going to need to give us that PIN number just to prove that Ima received the letter and gave it to John. So again, we're still under our Additional Services tab under Manage My Profile, but now we're going to click on the link that specifically says Submit Access PIN. So under our Submit Access PIN, should be very familiar by now, instruction page just to make sure you're in the right spot. We are 100% in the right spot. I verified everything on here. So next, we're going to ask for 2 pieces of information. One, what's the taxpayer's last name, which is still very creatively taxpayer, and what's the PIN number, which in this case, Ima gave it to me of 463732. Assuming everything is good for that, which it is, we'll move on to our next step, which just is a standard review page. Again, I double checked it, and that's definitely the PIN number. That's definitely the right person. So click Submit. We've received it. You get your confirmation code. Move back out to our Manage My Profile link. So we can verify that this worked if we click our OH Tax eServices here in the top. That's actually a link that goes back out to our main page, which we can now see we have access to 2 people. First one that we have access to is John Filer. Second one that we have access to, which is our new one, I'm a taxpayer. And we can click into Ima and see we now have access to Ima's individual and school district income tax accounts. And that's all that we are planning to show you for our Social Security number and requesting access to that. Next, we're actually going to go pass it off to Zach, and he will go through some of our business and FEIN requests for you.
Thank you, Andy. All right, now we're going to cover some of the business-related stuff as it relates to access management in eServices. So continuing on with our scenarios, here we've got Amanda. She is going to register a second business in OH Tax eServices. So what we're going to do is log into eServices as Amanda and enter in our business information and then register our new business. So since we're not using Ohio Business Gateway, with this new access management, we can do all of that within eServices. So as you can see up in the top right, we're logged in as Amanda Business. We can also see our current business over here in the top left, Mining Corp. What we're going to do is go to Manage My Profile, Additional Services, and then click this link here that says Set up a business with ODT. Now, as I'm sure you've seen before, we have our instructions screen, which is just going to give us a brief overview of what we're doing, what we might need, and what's going to happen once we complete this request. So let's go ahead and get started. So to start off, we're going to enter in our business ID as well as the ID type. I will note that you will have the option for putting in a social security number here, but I think most of them will be through an FEIN. Once we have that in, we'll move over and enter in our business name. Oops. And then move to the next step. Next, we want to enter in what relationship we have to the business. So for our purposes, Amanda is the owner. So we're going to select that option and move to the next screen. As a part of this, we're going to enter in Amanda's personal information because she is the owner. So we will type that information in here. Pretty standard stuff, just name, ID, as well as some contact information, which we already have set up here, and an address, which we will use the state capital for our address. And then we'll verify that our address is correct. Since there's apparently a bunch of different capital squares, we'll want to select the right one. Once we got that information in, we'll then move to the entity information where we're going to explain what type of business this is. For our purposes, we're going to select corporation. You can also enter in the Secretary of State number if you have that, if you're registered with the Secretary of State, but we'll skip that for our presentation. Next will be the actual business address. So this is where the business is located. And for this business, we're going to go ahead and use the Department of Taxation's address. All right, we verified our address for the business. Move on to the next step, where we come to our review screen where we can double check our information, make sure it's correct before actually submitting this over and creating our business. So we hit submit, and we should move over to our confirmation screen where we get our number. And now we can see that our business has been registered. Now, typically, we're not just coming into the website just to create the business. We're also going to want to register some tax accounts. So we do have a convenient button down here that says register a business tax account. We can click that and it'll take us straight to that page where we can start to register any tax accounts that we might need. All right. If we go back, we can also see we now have our new business here, Widget Makers Inc., which does not have any information, but we do have the business there. All right. So moving on to our next scenario for delegating access. So these next two scenarios are going to be very important when it comes to actually giving or receiving access to the businesses that we've created. So again, since we're no longer dealing with Ohio Business Gateway, eServices is going to manage all of that for us. So our next scenario here, since Amanda set up her new business, she's having a bit of trouble trying to manage it for both. So she's going to hire a professional to help her out with filing her tax returns. So Amanda is going to delegate her access over to I Do Taxes, very aptly named, who is going to then be filing severance tax returns for Amanda's original company that we saw. So we're going to move over back to eServices. We're still logged in as Amanda. What we're going to do is click on Manage My Profile, Additional Services, and then scroll down here and click this link that says Manage Representative Access. So on this page, if you had any representatives or other people that were tied to any of your business accounts, you'd be able to see them in here. But what we're interested in doing is clicking this link up in the top right that says Send an Invitation. So this is how we're going to send information over to, or the access request over to other users. So what we want to do as a part of this is we're going to send an email, which is going to have a link that someone is going to use in order to get that invitation for access. So we're going to enter in the email address that we want to use. Oops. And then once we've entered that in, we're going to enter in the actual access types that we want. So we can see the business names, Mining Corp here, as well as Widget Makers Inc. We've also got this general access, as well as the severance tax. So this is an actual tax account that we have under Mining Corp. So to start off, we're going to select the role that this user will get as a part of the Mining Corp business. So we have 3 levels here that a person can be given. So I'll briefly go through those to explain, but you may have seen these already. So the account manager here is our very basic level. You're really only going to be doing one thing for this role, probably just going in to file returns or potentially just do payments, whatever you'd like to set up with that individual. This person will not have the ability to change anything on the actual accounts or register new accounts or change any information for anyone other than themselves. Our next level here is administrator. So these individuals will have the ability to create new tax accounts under a business, as well as manage the access of anyone that is underneath them. So any of those account managers, they'll be able to change the access for that. They'll also be able to give anyone access up to the administrator level if they so desire. However, they're not going to be able to see any tax accounts unless they've specifically been given that access to that tax account. Moving on to our next level, we have full access. So this is our highest level of access, as you can probably imagine. And as it says, they have full access to the business. So they can see any and all future tax accounts that might be set up under that business. They'll be able to make new tax accounts under the business, as well as manage the access of anyone below them. So that means administrators and the business managers or the account managers. Also, they'll be able to grant up to the full access, but they won't be able to actually take away the full access role from anyone that gets it. So an administrator can't remove an administrator, and a full access individual can't remove the access of a full access person. So for our purposes, we actually just want to give I do taxes, if you remember our tax prepare, administrator. Next, for the severance account, we do have our levels here. I'll be a little quicker with these since they're pretty self-explanatory. We have file returns and make payments, and view only, with file returns and make payments essentially going to be our highest level role where they'll be able to do whatever they want with that tax account. So we'll select that and move on to the next step, which we just confirm the invitation, make sure we're sending it off to the right place and to the right email, as well as reviewing the access we want to give. So we see Mining Corp as well as the administrator role, and then severance tax and the file returns and make payments access role. So if everything is good, we'll hit submit and send out that invitation, which we get a confirmation that it's been sent, as well as when that invitation will expire. We're also told that we'll get a notification when that access is accepted. So now we'll go and get that email. We'll get the link from the email and log in as our prepare I do taxes. All right, so now we're back here. We're logged in as I do taxes. So we've clicked on that link that was in the email. The first screen we're going to see here is one that wants us to verify the email. So the link can be provided to any individual. We just want to make sure that this person actually has access to this email. So we're going to have this an additional step where we make sure that they actually have access to the email. Now, because we're in the testing region, we do get to skip this process. So we can just click this to move on. So we've verified our email. So imagine we went into the email inbox and grabbed that code and put it in. We'll move on to the next screen where we get to review the invitation that was sent to us. So we can see Mining Corp here, as well as the general access level of administrator, that role. And we also have access to file returns and make payments for the severance tax account. We do also have the ability to decline the invitation if we believe this was sent to us in error, but we want to accept the access. So we're going to click accept, and it's going to let us know that our access has been updated and that the original person that sent us the invitation, Amanda Business, has been notified. Now, if we click OK, we can now see here up in the top left that we now have access to Mining Corp as well as the severance tax account. All right, so that was sending over an invitation. Now we want to move over and go to our next scenario. So we've done the delegation, but now we have instances where we just want to go ahead and request access ourselves. We don't want to wait on an invitation. We just want to put in the information, tell the system what business, what tax accounts we need access to, and do that. So our last scenario here is going to be requesting access to a business. We have another individual, just a prep. They need to request access to a business. So what they're going to do is use that request, submit that information, and hopefully get access to the business. So now we're going to go back into eServices. All right, so now we're logged in here as just a prep. Again, as we can see up here in the top right, we can see many different tax accounts that this user has access to, but we want to get access to another one. So what we're going to do is click on Manage My Profile, Additional Services, and then this link that says Access Accounts under an FEIN for businesses, trusts, and estates. So as we've seen before, we have our instruction screen here, which just tells you, again, what we're doing, what we might need as a part of this request, as well as what's going to happen once we complete the request. So let's get into it. So of course, as a part of this, we need to tell the system what business we actually want to get access to. So that business for us is going to be Trinkets and More. And we're going to enter in the ID of the business. Again, like we did with the registration of a business, we need to explain what our role is for this business. And we're just going to be a representative. We're just going to file returns for the taxpayer. And we're also going to say that we do want the ability to manage access for other individuals, other users for this business. Move to the next step. So on the screen, I think this is something very important to call out. So we have four categories here: withholding taxes, sales and use taxes, pass-through entity taxes, and one for excise and energy taxes. If we actually select that box, it's going to give us a whole new list once we move over to the next step. For our purposes, we only want to do sales and use taxes. When we go to the next screen, what we're going to do is select the role that we want or the access level that we want for sales and use tax. We're going to select file returns and make payments, and then we're going to enter in some information regarding these accounts. So we're going to select a letter ID and enter that number in. We're going to check our records, double check and make sure that it was entered in correctly. And once that looks good, we'll move on to the next side. So you will get that screen for every account group that you select on that screen before we selected our account access. But since we just had the one category, we only entered in the stuff for sales and use taxes. Now we get to our review screen where again we can make sure we selected the right business or put in the right business information, as well as selected the right type of access for us. So we'll go ahead and submit. And we'll get to our confirmation screen that's going to tell us that our access request was submitted for review. And once it's complete, we should get an email that'll let us know that we've gotten access or what our next steps might be. So we'll click OK. And if we go back out, we should see down below, we now have access to Trinkets and More, the business we just requested access to. And we have access to not only a sales tax account, but also a consumer use tax account. So one important thing to know for these access requests to a business is it's by category. So we saw those checkboxes on that screen. We selected sales and use tax. We entered in that information, and we actually got access to all of the accounts for that category. If for whatever reason you don't want access to one of these accounts, you can manage your access and actually remove that from your own user account. All right. So that is the end of our scenarios for OH Tax eServices as it relates to access management. So just a brief recap, Andy showed us some navigational tips as well as what to do if we're trying to get access in eServices for an individual, or if we're a preparer for an individual, if we want to file for an individual. We also saw what it looks like to register a new business in OH Tax, as well as what the management looks like for if someone else needs to get access to the business, either by sending an invitation or by requesting access ourselves. All right, I hope you enjoyed our presentation, our demonstrations that we had in here. Just a couple more items to touch on before we finish off. So what's going to be next with OH Tax? Well, Phase 4 will look very similar to Phase 3. With it, we're bringing over 6 taxes. It'll be commercial activity tax, financial institutions tax, municipal net profit, kilowatt hour, motor fuel, and horse racing. So if any of those tax types interest you, please look forward to those coming into OH Tax eServices next year. We'll be kicking off Phase 4 in January of 2026. If you want to stay informed, please do visit OH Tax through our link, through our website, tax.ohio.gov. And you can also sign up for tax alerts on our website to make sure that you're kept up with any updates that come through for any tax types such as sales or employer withholding, anything like that. And also, you can follow us on our social media to keep up to date with the things that we're currently up to. All right. And with that, that will conclude this section of the OVTA for OH Tax eServices. I'll hand it over to Nick to finish things off. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy and Zach. That concludes our OH Tax eServices presentation. We will now take a break and return at 9:45 for our next presentation. Welcome back. Our next presentation comes from our Excise and Energy Tax Division and will cover updates to the International Fuel Tax Agreement in Ohio. Before I turn things over to our presenters, I want to remind you that materials for today's presentation are in the form of PowerPoints, are available for download on the webinar screen. If you are having trouble locating them, you can also submit a question through the Q&A panel, and our technical team will be happy to assist you. And now, coming to you from our Excise and Energy Tax Division, I am glad to introduce Cody Fitch, who will then be shortly joined by Quentin Turner.
Hi, my name is Cody Fitch, and I'm the administrator of the Excise and Energy Tax Division. Today we'll discuss the International Fuel Tax Agreement, specifically the changes everyone can expect to see in OH Tax eServices. As some of you may know, IFTA is set to go live in OH Tax eServices on November 12th. My colleague Quentin Turner will walk us through all the available transactions for IFTA and OH Tax eServices. Before I turn it over to Quentin, I'd like to quickly mention a few of the changes you can expect to see and how the transition to eServices will impact the 2026 license renewals. Changes in eServices include the ability to register for a new account online, the ability to submit requests for additional and replacement decals online, and the ability to upload quarterly return information. You will also be asked to provide a list of vehicle identification numbers when registering, renewing, and requesting additional and replacement decals. These can also be uploaded. Historically, we've opened license renewals beginning October 1st. This year, the 2026 license renewals will open beginning November 12th to coincide with the IFTA eServices go-live date. No renewals will be processed before this date. Thank you all for attending today, and now I'd like to pass it over to Quentin Turner to go through the IFTA eServices transactions.
Thank you, Cody. Hello, and thank you for joining us today for an IFTA eServices demo. My name is Quentin Turner. As Cody mentioned, we will be covering everything that you will see when IFTA goes live in eServices come November 12th. We will go ahead and jump right in. This first step assumes that you have created your eServices profile. So you've set up your username and password. You just don't have any business tax accounts with us yet. So as you can see, when you first log in, you don't have any tax accounts set up just yet. So we will go ahead and start that process by setting up a business with ODT. So you'll get some brief instructions, including how to register a business in the future. We will go ahead and go next. So you have the option to provide a federal ID or a social security number to set up your business account. Today, we will do a federal ID and enter our FAN and go next. We will enter the business name and go next. And our relationship to the business. We will choose owner. And then we'll enter our personal information. You'll complete these details for the personal information, including an address. And then there's an option to verify the address. If it can find it, it'll pre-populate those details. If not, you may get additional pop-ups as the system attempts to verify your address. Hopefully, once you have a verified address, you will go next. You'll choose the entity type and the Secretary of State entity number. You will then provide the business address. We will use the same that we provided in the previous steps. And again, the system will verify the address. And we will go next. You'll get a review page. If everything looks good there, you will submit. So that just registers the business. At this step, you do not have any tax accounts set up yet. In the future, you can go to your additional services tab and register new business tax accounts if necessary. But that step is offered right here as soon as you set up the business for the first time as well. So we will go ahead and jump right into that. Register a business tax account. We are working with the international fuel tax today, so we will choose the IFTA, register an IFTA tax account. The instructions will give you a general idea of what you'll be needed to complete this registration. There are some new pieces that will be needed, such as a utility bill or a lease agreement showing that your business is located in Ohio, along with IRP or BMV information showing your vehicle registration and responsible party information. Once you've read through the instructions, you will go next. Will you be traveling outside of the state of Ohio? If you are not, you do not need an IFTA license. It is for interstate travel. So we will choose yes today. And when did you first start transporting goods outside of Ohio? And if you'd like to add a DBA or doing business as name, we will choose no for today and go next. Do you have any bulk fuel tanks? If you do, you'll have to provide those states with the bulk storage. For today, we will choose no and go next. Vehicle identification numbers are also a requirement now. You have the option to upload your VINs by using the VIN upload template here. And we will show that process. So we will say, yes, we are doing an upload. You'll click upload file. And we will choose our VIN listing. And it'll show that your file has been uploaded. You'll go next. So whether you choose to upload the VINs or not, this page will look the same. If you did not upload your VINs, you can add VINs here. Even if you did choose to upload, you can add additional VINs if you forgot one, make changes, or delete any rows if necessary. Once you have your VINs listed, you will go next. So how many sets of decals do you need? We entered 4 VINs, so we will choose 4 sets of decals. And next. What is the US DOT number? So we will enter that here. And then is your US DOT number listed under a different company name? If it is, you'll need to provide the lease agreement showing you're authorized to use that DOT number. For today's purposes, we will say no. So here's where you'll need to provide the verification that your business is located in Ohio, that your business is based in Ohio. So a rental agreement, mortgage statement, as long as and also your Ohio vehicle registration information. So we'll go ahead and add an attachment. And add our lease agreement. So you can see your attachments down below. If you had additional attachments to add, you can do that here. Just add another attachment. Once you have your supporting documentation here, you will go next. And then the address is pulling from the initial business setup. If you'd like to add a separate mailing address, you can do so here. We will say yes to that. And then on the next page, we'll be prompted to provide a different mailing address. And once our address is verified, we will go next. Again, the contact information is pulling from the business setup. If you need to make any changes, you can do so. Once your contact information is up to date, you can go next. So responsible parties are also required. If a party is no longer responsible, you can add the end date to that party here. And then as you can see on the next page, you can add additional responsible parties if necessary. So we will go to the next page and we will add a new responsible party. and that responsible party's information. And the the address for that responsible party. If you had additional responsible parties to add, you can just click the plus, the add responsible party link, and it will start to populate the additional responsible parties up here in the blue bar. We're just going to add the one today, so we've completed the details, and we will just go next. So in the future, on additional applications, the responsible party lists will be populated with this additional responsible party that we've added. You'll get to the review page. If the information looks good, you'll go next. And then you'll read through and then confirm your declaration by clicking Submit. Once the department processes your application, you should receive an important notification to the email address you've provided, directing you to come back to eServices. And once you do, you'll see that you have an unread letter. And when you view that letter, your IFTA temporary authority will be available to you, which you're able to print from eServices and use while you're waiting for your decals in the mail. Once we finish processing your requests and mail your decals, you will also receive a copy of your license on eServices. So receive another important notification, direct you back to eServices. Once you log in, you'll find your IFTA license, which will include the decals that were issued to you. So a copy of this license plus the decals will arrive in the mail, but this will be available to you to save digitally or print when needed. So that completes the initial registration process. We will navigate back to the summary page and look at the return process. So as you can see, this will be new. There are two panels here, one for the tax agreement account. In this top account here, this is where you'll do your filing, make your payments, and also see any upcoming due dates or balance dues or credits. And then down below, you'll see your IFTA license account. This is where you can make additional decal requests, and also there'll be a panel for the renewal once that opens up. So we will look at the return first. So we will file this June 2025 second quarter return by clicking File Now. Do you have any miles or fuel to report? If you choose no, you'll be guided to just filing a zero return, which is still required if you have no miles or gallons. But for today, we will choose yes. Another new question, do you have any untaxed or unreceipted fuel? Untaxed is receipts that you have that may not include any tax, and unreceipted are just receipts that you may have lost. So we will show that by saying yes. And then, are you only reporting diesel fuel? If you choose yes on the upcoming pages, when it's asking for your fuel types, diesel will be pre-populated and you'll be unable to change it to another fuel type. So if you're only diesel, you'll choose yes. If you have more than just diesel fuel, you'll say no. So we'll show that by saying no. And then how many vehicles are you reporting for the quarter? We will say 4 and then go next. So you do have the ability to upload your tax return. You can get the template here by clicking this link, filling out the details, and then saying yes that you are uploading your schedule. We will show that off by saying yes, we are uploading. And then attaching our return, you'll see that the file has been uploaded, and we will go next. So on the jurisdiction details page, we chose to upload. So we have some information populated here. If we did not, we would just add a jurisdiction and continue to do so until we've completed all of our jurisdiction details. But even if you chose to upload, you'll have the ability to make edits with the pencil, delete rows by clicking the X, or adding additional jurisdictions if you left one out. And we will go ahead and do that. We will add a jurisdiction. Let's say we also have another for Indiana for the fuel type of electricity. We will enter in our miles, our taxable miles, and our volume. Then we will click Add. And then you'd follow that same process if you had additional jurisdictions to add. Once your details are complete, we'll go next. So again, here's our untaxed or unreceipted volume. Untaxed is our receipts without tax. Unreceipted are receipts that you do not have, that you may have lost. So we'll enter a figure there and go next. So here's our totals by fuel type. We entered two types, diesel and electricity. So they're being summed here. We will go next. And then here's our jurisdictional review. So you can see we may have a credit in Ohio. We have balance dues in Indiana. So overall, we have a tax due. Once you review the details on this step, we will go next. And then one last review page, just giving a summary of the reporting period we're filing for, and also our balance due in this case. We will go next. You'll choose your payment option, either pay later if you're sending in a check, or ACH. We will choose the ACH option. And then you would complete your payment details on this page. And if you'd like to save it for future use, once your details are entered, you'll go next. And then you'll again read your declaration and agree to it by filing my return. The typical turnaround time is 2 business days for the processing of the return. But we will show that what it'll look like once that return gets processed. So once your return has been processed, and if you were to log back into your eServices account, you can see that the return has been filed, along with no balance due because we made a payment. If we chose to pay later, the balance due would be red with a balance there until it's been paid. We will also show off an amended return. So you can do that by clicking on the View and Amend option. If you need a transcript, you can also do that from this page. But for today, we will amend the return that was just filed by clicking Amend. The information will pull in from the original return. So if no changes are needed here, they're already selected for you. So we'll leave those as they are and go next. If there are multiple changes being made on this amended return, it may be beneficial to attach another upload file. But if there are minor changes, just a few changes that need to be made, as opposed to uploading a whole new file, once we go next, you'll see that it does pull in the details from the previous return, from the original return. So at this point, you could just go in there and make your edits. So we will show that by just deleting the Indiana electricity. And then go next. You'll still have your untaxed or unreceipted volume question. We'll leave it as is and go next. And now on our fuel type breakdown, you'll see that the electricity row is gone. So we will go next there. And then on our review, we'll now see that we have a lower tax due amount with the previous line being deleted. So we will go next there. And on this review page, you'll see that you're getting credit for your previous payment. And now we actually have an overall credit or refund that is due. So when you go next, you'll also see that you'll be prompted to provide your direct deposit information for that overpayment or receive a check by mail. For today, we will choose check by mail, and then you'll be prompted to provide the correct address. If this address is not correct, you'll choose no, and then be prompted to to provide the details of that better mailing address. But for today, we will choose yes and go next. And then again, confirming that declaration by file my return. So again, there is some processing time, but if we return back to our summary homepage, you'll see that you have a return submitted. And if you view that submission, you'll have the option to withdraw it, which is just pulling it back to make edits, or deleting it entirely if it filed an error. These options are available while the return is processing, but typically overnight, once that return processes, you'll have to amend the return to make changes. All right, so that now covers the returns, payments, and amending options. We will now move down to this IFTA license account. And again, this is where you will request decals, additional or replacements, and also renew once the renewal period is open. So we will first show off the request additional decals. So again, the two options are additionals or replacements. We will choose the additional. For the additional, the most common option would be you've added a new truck to your fleet, and that new truck needs IFTA decals. So you are requesting additional decals for that truck. So we'll choose additional and go next. Again, you'll have the option to upload your VINs. For this one, we will choose no and just manually enter them. So for the additional requests, you do need to provide a VIN that does not exist on any of your previous IFTA applications. You're telling us that it's a new truck, so we need a new VIN for that new truck. If you provide a VIN for one that already matches one that we have on file for you, you'll get a pop-up, an error message, and you'll be unable to continue. So once you provide that new VIN, you will go next. And you can provide new VIN or VIN. So if you have more, you can just keep adding. But once you have your VINs entered, you'll go next, and you'll just get a review step letting you know the reason and the number of decals you're requesting, and then you will submit. So at this step, you're waiting for the department to process your request. Usually the next business day, you'll get a temporary authority. And then once we mail out your decals, the updated license will also be available to you on eServices. And we will show what that will look like once that request has been approved. So once that request has been approved, you'll again get that important notification on eServices. You'll get that important notification that you can then view that letter. And in this case, the letter is another temporary authority allowing you to operate while you're awaiting for that additional request, that additional decal to arrive in the mail. And then once we place your decals in the mail for that additional request, you'll again be able to view that license there on eServices as well. And it will contain the updated decal or the new decal that we're sending. So again, you'll be able to view and print this at any time by logging into eServices. We will quickly show off the replacement requests. So we'll navigate back to the summary page. Again, click on the request additional decals. And this time we're doing replacement. So replacements are typically ones that you either never received or you did receive, but they were damaged or destroyed. You have the same vehicle, that vehicle needs another set of decals. So we will choose destroyed. So again, you'll have the option to upload. For this one, we will say no. Upload your VINs. We will not upload the VINs. Let's see. And go next. So for this, you'll need to provide a VIN that matches one that we already have on file for you. If you provide a VIN that does not match one that we have on file for you, you'll get an error message and it will be rejected. And then you will submit. Again, typically the next day, you'll get your temporary buy through eServices, and then your license will be available to you once we mail the decals. I will again quickly show that so you can see the updated decal number again. So again, you'll get that important notification by email, or you'll get an email letting you know that you have an important notification available to you on eServices. Once you log in, another place that you can always find these your licenses and temporaries are under the Additional Services tab by clicking on Additional Services and View Letters and Notices. And again, you'll have your newest temporary authority available to you for that replacement request. And then once we drop your decals in the mail, you will also have your updated license with the decals of that for that replacement request. All right, so that then covers the additional decal and the replacement decal request. The next topic will be the renewals. So as you can see, I'm working with a November 12th date here in the system. That'll be the first day the renewal opens up this year, but I'll be able to show off the renewal today. When that renewal period opens, you'll have this panel here letting you know you have a 2026 renewal upcoming. Before going into that renewal though, one quick thing, if we go to Additional Services tab, under the Registration and Account Maintenance box here, you can manage names and addresses. So if we go in there and then click on Addresses, the renewal information, that'll go to the address we have on file for you. So if at no point that's been updated, you may just want to come here just to make sure we don't have an outdated address for you. But you can update the license mailing address here, and the renewal information will go to this address. So if we navigate back to the summary, and then click on File Now for the renewal, you'll have the option to upload your VIN listing. And the template is available here if you need it. We will not do that for this demo because as you can see, when we go next, it will pull in all the VINs that have been provided to us from the previous applications. But you do have the ability to make additions, edits, or deletions from this page as well. We will leave our VINs as they are and go next. And then the number of decals you're requesting, it is pre-populated based on the number of VINs that you have entered. So that is set to 5. We will go next. And then just one last review page, just letting you know the license year and the sets that you have requested. Go next. And then you'll again confirm this declaration by clicking Submit. So at this step, once we process your requests and issue your decals, you'll get that, you'll see your license on within eServices. You should not expect a temporary for renewal requests due to the grace period. As long as you've renewed before the due date, there's a grace period that you have until to get the new decals on the vehicle that lasts until February 28th. So as long as you're renewed, you've done what you need to do. So once we process your requests, you'll again get that important notification. You can view your letters. And then you'll have your 2026 IFTA license available to you to again have digitally in print when needed. And this renewal application will again show the decals that we'd issue to you. So that covers our renewal. And that also covers everything that you would see on eServices, including the returns, well, the initial registration, the returns, the requesting additional and replacement decals, and the renewal process. So we'll navigate back to the eServices homepage and show off one last thing for today. So for representatives who are filing for multiple companies, just want to quickly show what it will look like to swap between those different profiles. So we will go ahead and log into our representative company. So when you first get logged in, you may not have access to anything. To request access to an account under a Social Security number, you'll have that option here. But today we will choose accessing an account under a FAIN. So we'll click that. You will need to provide a piece of business information since we're working with IFTA. If you have a copy of their license, there is a letter ID on that license. You can use that. But as long as you're providing a piece of business information, the system should process your request. Once you read through your instructions, you'll go next. You'll provide the legal name of the business that you're requesting access to and their FAIN. You'll provide your relationship to the business. We'll choose representative. And then if you have authority to manage other representatives on behalf of the business, you'll say yes. For today, we'll choose no. We're dealing with IFTA, which is an excise tax, so we'll check that box. But if you do have other accounts, other taxes you need access to, you can check those boxes here. We'll just choose excise, and we'll choose fuel taxes, which includes IFTA, and go next. So based on your discussions with the customer, with the taxpayer, you may have access to only do certain things. But today we will choose file returns and make payments. And then here is the step where you will need to provide a piece of business information. Again, the letter ID on the IFTA license would be acceptable. So once you complete those details here, you'll go next. And then this review page just lets you know that your request will either be approved or you may receive notification on the steps needed to gain access to the account. But then you'll submit your request and click OK. And then as you can see on the summary page, we now have access to that new customer where you can act on their behalf. And then just to show how it will look if you have multiple customers, you can do that by clicking on Representative Center. And here in the middle under Business Access Management, if you're setting up a brand new business, you could do that here. Otherwise, today we're doing access accounts under AFANE. And again, a lot of the same information as the first request that was submitted. So we'll go through there. We'll enter the new or the second company's details. Our relationship, again, choose no. We'll say excise taxes again, fuel taxes. All this information is the same from the previous step, from the first business. We'll again say file returns and make payments, and then provide those details. We'll again choose the letter ID for the IFTA license and go next. And again, one last time, just letting you know the request will be approved or you may receive steps on how to correct it. We'll submit and OK. And then once we return to the home page, we'll know how to select a customer where you'll be able to swap between customers. And you can click on work with someone else, choose a different one. And then one last thing to note, as you see the important notifications that may start to pop up, if you have a customer in context here, these important notifications are for this customer. If you click on Manage My Profile and Important Notifications, these would be the one related to you. So if you were not approved for a specific company's access, you'll see that notification here. You can view the message and see why it was denied. But that covers the representative portion. As far as working with the account, everything it'll be the same on how a non-representative would would access the account. But that does conclude today's IFTA eServices demo. I'd like to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the Excise and Energy Tax Division with any questions. We'd be happy to assist. And thank you again.
Thank you, Cody and Quentin. With the conclusion of our IFTA segment, we will take another short break in the program. We'll resume with our next presentations at 10:40. Welcome back. Coming up in the next hour, we will have presentations from our pass-through entity and fiduciary income tax and employment tax divisions. Before I turn things over to our next presenter, I want to remind you that our tax experts are standing by and are ready to answer your questions about today's topics. We also have technical experts on hand to help you navigate any technical issues that come up during the program. You can submit all your questions through the Q&A panel directly to the right of this video window. And now, I would like to introduce our next presenter, speaking on behalf of the Pass-Through Entity and Fiduciary Income Tax Division, Cameron Smith.
Welcome to the 2025 Ohio Virtual Tax Academy presentation for the Pass-Through Entity and Fiduciary Income Tax types. My name is Cameron Smith, and I'm a tax examiner for the Pass-Through Entity and Fiduciary Income Tax Division. The information provided in this presentation is given for general guidance only and does not constitute legal or tax advice. Any legislative or changes that take place after the date of this presentation may change the accuracy of this content. Additionally, facts and circumstances applicable to your situation may impact any answers provided herein. This presentation will provide key updates and essential information related to the upcoming tax season, including OH Tax eService enhancements, new features and functionality for pass-through entity, PTE, and fiduciary income tax filers, legislative updates, recent changes in tax law and how they impact filing requirements, filing season updates, important dates, system improvements, and procedural changes for the upcoming season, quick facts and reminders, helpful tips, common issues, and key takeaways to support accurate and timely filing. As part of ongoing efforts to enhance taxpayer services, we are excited to announce a major upgrade to the OH Tax eService systems. On November 12, 2025, the OH Tax eService system will go live for PTE and Fiduciary Filers with significant enhancements. The platform introduces a range of new features designed to improve efficiency, accessibility, and user control. Among the most notable updates is the ability for PTE and Fiduciary Filers to file both original and amended returns electronically, make secure online payments, and access their account information at any time. In addition to these core functions, the system will allow users to request tax return transcripts for tax years 2021 through 2024. This new capability supports better record keeping and simplifies interactions with the department. These enhancements reflect a broader commitment to modernization, data security, and user empowerment. Overall, these updates mark a major step forward in delivering a more responsive, transparent, and user-friendly tax administration system that meets the evolving needs of today's filers. The OH Tax eService system introduces several additional features designed to enhance flexibility and improve communication between users and the department. Among the key enhancements is the ability for users to securely upload documents in response to department requests, streamlining the submission process and reducing delays. Users can also send and receive web messages directly through the portal, enabling more efficient and traceable communication. This web messages system is replacing the email portal accessible on the department's website. Another important feature is the ability to submit penalty abatement requests online, simplifying what was previously a more manual and time-consuming process. Additionally, account holders now have the option to assign access and permission to others, allowing for more collaborative account management, particularly useful for businesses, fiduciaries, or tax professionals managing multiple entities. If you use the eServices portal for any taxes transitioned into the OH tax system, you may have noticed several user-focused enhancements designed to improve your experience. One of the most visible additions is Pilot, the Cardinal chatbot, which is now available on every eService page. Pilot provides 24/7 support, offering quick answers and guidance at any time of the day. Another valuable tool is the snapshot screen share function. This feature allows both the caller and the department representative to view the same screen in real time, making it easier to resolve issues and clarify questions quickly and accurately. For more personalized assistance, the live chat feature is available Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. During these hours, you'll be connected directly with representatives who specialize in the pass-through entity and fiduciary income taxes, eliminating the need for call transfers or delays. Before accessing the enhanced OH Tax eService system, there are a few important steps to complete. Step 1. Create your unique OH ID, your key to securely accessing most State of Ohio systems and applications. The OH ID provides a private, streamlined way to connect with state services. Establishing your OH ID is a critical first step to ensure a smooth experience when using the upgraded OH Tax eServices platform. Step 2 involves creating your eServices profile, which requires entering your full name, email address, and a secure password. You will also need to provide accurate contact information and carefully review all entries. This process helps establish a secure and personalized account for managing tax-related activities online. As part of the setup process for the OH-Tax eService system, Step 3 is a critical final step: confirm and submit. After entering your profile details, review all the information to ensure accuracy. Once confirmed, submit the form to complete your registration. A successful submission will trigger a verification process, confirming that your eServices account is active and ready for use. Discover new user-friendly features available to the pass-through entity and fiduciary filers. By creating an account in the OH-Tax eService system, users gain access to a personalized dashboard where they can view and manage their tax accounts. Pass-through entity and fiduciary filers can control access for themselves, another individual, or an existing business, enhancing flexibility and security. Here's a view of what users will see when they attempt to view, file, or amend a PTE or fiduciary tax return. The interface is designed to be intuitive and user-friendly, allowing filers to easily navigate between return types, review submission details, and make necessary updates. Before submitting a return, users will have the opportunity to thoroughly review all entered information for accuracy. The review step allows them to go back and make any necessary corrections or updates, ensuring the return is complete and correct. Once the user is satisfied and submits a return, the system will generate a confirmation code as proof of successful submission. This code can be used for tracking or reference purposes. For the first time, pass-through entity and fiduciary filers can make payments online using the new electronic check ACH option. To complete this transaction, users must provide bank routing and account numbers, business address and contact information, and the applicable filing period. Note: credit and debit card payments would not be available at launch for PTE and fiduciary filers, but efforts are underway to offer this option in the future. To make a payment as a logged-in user, the first step is to access the OH-Tax eServices system by selecting Log In or create an OHID account. This secure login ensures that your account and payment information are protected. Once logged in, users proceed with selecting the appropriate payment option and entering the necessary details. Step 2 in the payment process involves navigating to the OH-Tax eServices dashboard. From the summary page, users locate the account tile and select the Make a Payment hyperlink. This action directs users to the payment entry screen. They can begin entering the necessary details for their transaction. Step 3. Selecting the appropriate payment type. In this step of the payment process, users are required to select the most relevant payment type from the Payment Type section. This is done using a drop-down menu that offers several options, including account payment, audit payment, billing and assessment payment, estimated payment, extension payment, and return payment. Each payment type corresponds to a specific financial obligation, and selecting the correct option is essential to ensure accurate processing and proper application of the funds. Choosing an incorrect payment type may result in delays, misapplied payments, or additional correspondence to resolve discrepancies. The final step is to carefully review all payment details before finalizing the transaction in the Confirm Submission section. This step ensures accuracy and provides an opportunity to make any last-minute corrections. Once the information is verified, users can click the Submit button to complete the payment process. A confirmation page will then appear, displaying a printable summary along with a unique confirmation code for reference. After printing or saving the confirmation, users can select the OK button to return to their dashboard. Next, let's review how to make a payment as a guest without logging into an account. Both logged in and non-logged in users can make secure payments and receive a confirmation code for tracking. However, logging in offers several important advantages. Pre-populated information. Account details are auto-filled, reducing manual entry and minimizing errors. Full payment history. Logged in users can view and download past payments for easier tracking and reconciliation. Access to additional services. Features such as saved payment methods, scheduled payments, and account-specific alerts are available. Streamlined experience. Logging in provides a more efficient and personalized process, especially beneficial for frequent filers or businesses managing multiple accounts. For users who prefer not to create an account, the guest payment option remains available. To begin, navigate to the business tile on the main page and select Make a pass-through entity or fiduciary income tax payment. To proceed with the guest payment, users complete the business information section and enter information such as the federal employer identification number, the business name, a valid email address, the business entity type, the payment type, and accurate contact information. The form is designed to be straightforward, guiding users through each required field. Step 3 of the guest payment process requires the users to enter key banking and payment details, including the payment amount, the payment date, bank routing number, account number, and the type of bank account, such as checking or savings. Step 4 in the guest payment process is to confirm that all entered information is accurate before submitting. Once verified, select the Submit button to complete the transaction. A confirmation page will then appear, displaying a printable summary along with the unique confirmation code for your records. After printing or saving the confirmation, click the OK button to return to the main dashboard. Up next is the topic of legislative updates. As you may know, Governor DeWine signed House Bill 96, the most recent 2-year operating bill, on June 30th, 2025. The bill contains some interesting updates for the pass-through entity and fiduciary return filers. This update affects trusts and estates that are subject to filing the IT 1041 fiduciary income tax return. For taxable years beginning on or after January 1st, 2025, the Section 168K bonus depreciation and Section 179 expense add-back is restored as a required add-back on the IT 1041, and Schedule 1 is shown. You may remember this add-back was repealed by the previous budget bill, House Bill 33. For tax years 2023 and 2024, IT 1041 filers had no add-back requirement, and no lines for reporting the add-back appeared on the IT 1041 for those periods. To facilitate reporting of the restored add-back requirement, the reporting lines are now separated into 3 lines to report the 2/3 add-back, 5/6 add-back, and 6/6 add-back. On the prior IT 1041 forms, filers used 1 line to report the total add-back, then used a checkbox below the line to indicate which of the 3 add-back ratios was used, making verifying the total amount challenging. However, recognizing a filer could report add-back amounts on a combination of the 3 ratios, the separate lines provided on the 2025 IT 1041 will facilitate reporting these amounts and reduce the risk of an incorrect adjustment that could cause a billing or reduced refund. In the example here, Estate A reports a 2/3 add-back amount of $90,000 on line 30A and a 5/6 add-back amount of $100,000 on line 30B. The table here shows Estates A historical add-back history from 2022 through 2025, with the 2 separated add-back amounts for the 2025 tax year, thanks to the separate reporting lines allowing for calculations using different add-back fractions. Notice 2023 and 2024 report no add-back because the add-back was not required for those 2 tax years. The allowable annual depreciation deduction amount and allowable deduction for 2026 are easily trackable as shown. An important legislative change for fiduciary filers involves tax rate updates. For each of the brackets, rates were reduced as shown here. For tax year 2025, trust and estate filers will pay a reduced rate of 1.31287% for income up to $26,050. From income of more than $26,050 up to $100,000, trust and estate filers will pay a base amount of $342 plus 2.75% of the amount in excess of $26,050. Finally, for an income amount of over $100,000, trust and estate filers will pay a base amount of $2,394.32 plus 3.125% in excess of $100,000. House Bill 96 also establishes the 2026 tax rates for estate and trust return filers. Again, rates were reduced as shown here. Trust and estate filers will pay a reduced rate of 1.27448% for income up to $26,050. For income of more than $26,050, trust and estate filers will pay a base amount of $332 plus 2.75% of the amount in excess of $26,050. Another update of note is the alignment of Ohio pass-through entity estimated payment due dates. The estimated payment due dates for IT 1140 and IT 4738 filers now align with the Ohio IT 4708 PTE return, the IT 1041 fiduciary return, and the IT 1040 individual return, with due dates of April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th for calendar year filers. House Bill 96 introduces key changes to the IT 4708 PTE composite income tax return, reflecting Ohio's broader tax reform efforts. Effective for reporting periods starting on or after January 1st, 2025, the tax rate is reduced to 3.125%, followed by a further reduction to 3% for periods starting on or after January 1st of 2026. These changes continue a downward trend from 4.997% in 2018. House Bill 96 introduces an important change to the credits allowable on the IT 4738 EPTE income tax return. To clarify, currently no refundable and non-refundable credits are claimed on the IT 4738. See the example here. PTE and PTE-B are both owned by PTEX. PTEX has two individual investors, P1 and P2. A, B, and X all filed the IT 4738 EPTE return. For reporting periods ending before January 1st, 2025, X is required to remit full payment of the tax due on its own IT 4738 filing. X can only pass credits from A and B to P1 and P2 owners as indirect credits. Thus, these direct owners, P1 and P2, receive 1, a direct credit from tax paid by X, and 2, indirect credits paid by A and B. However, for reporting periods ending on or after January 1st, 2025, electing PTs can claim refundable PTE credits made by lower tier entities such as A and B on X's IT 4738 filing. Let's discuss how this change enacted by House Bill 96 works. Electing PTEs such as X can claim refundable PTE credits passed to them by lower tiers A and B for taxes paid by A and B. X is no longer required to pay the entire tax due with the payment, as the credits from A and B apply to the tax liability. This update is especially beneficial for multi-tiered entities, allowing them to claim credits for the tax paid by lower tier entities, instead of merely passing those credits through as indirect credits to their owners. X reports the refundable PTE tax credits it receives from A and B on the reporting line on page 1 of the IT 4738. X then provides an Ohio ITK1 to P1 and P2, showing their distributed share of income, credits, and adjustments. Based on the IT 4738 X filed, and P1 and P2 can then report their income and credits on the Ohio individual filing. Let's pivot to the credit changes House Bill 96 has created. The non-refundable Opportunity Zone investment credit will not be awarded after fiscal year 2027. The credit amount is now limited to $5 million per project. However, the cap on all credit awards is increased to $50 million for fiscal years 2026 and 2027. Unawarded amounts may carry from one fiscal year to the next, and credits issued during the July application round can now apply to the prior tax year. The campaign contribution credit is not available starting in tax year 2026, and the Invest Ohio credit will not be awarded for the investments made after November 3rd, 2025. The film and theater capital improvement credit will not be awarded after September 30th, 2025. Any credits awarded prior to then are claimable. House Bill 96 expands eligibility for these credits to include companies that present Broadway performances. The Welcome Home Ohio WHO program has been extended through the end of fiscal year 2027. All credits awarded over the next 2 years are now capped at $20 million. The calculation of the WHO tax credit has been changed to the lesser of 90% of construction costs, or $90,000. Finally, the proposal to sunset the film and theater production credit, historic building rehabilitation tax credit, after fiscal year 2027 was vetoed, so these credits will continue. New for 2025, the IT 1140 and IT 4708 forms are updated for partnerships to report changes due to an IRS federal partnership adjustment audit. The partnerships will check the box at the top of the IT 4708 or IT 1140 form indicating the partnership is filing as a result of a federal partnership adjustment, and complete a cover page explaining the adjustment, which will be provided with the original or amended return filed. The form and instructions will be available January 2026. For each of the PTE and fiduciary returns, estimated payments, prior year overpayments, or credit carry forward from the prior year, and amounts previously paid with an original or amended return are now combined on one line for ease of reporting. 1099 and W-2 withholdings are now reported on a line separate from the payments. Credit schedules were removed from the IT 1041 and IT 4708 returns, and these non-refundable and refundable credits are now reported on a new pass-through entity and fiduciary income tax schedule of credits. Reporting the credits this way promotes consistency and clarity. Updates to the 2025 forms are focused on improving the user experience. On the IT 1041 form, the non-refundable and refundable schedules have been moved to the new schedule of credits, including all non-refundable estate credits, such as the retirement income credit, senior citizen credit, campaign contribution credit, scholarship donation credit, and several others. The estate and trust resident credits, the estate non-resident credit, and all refundable business credits, such as the pass-through entity credits, the Ohio Historic Preservation Credit, and several others. In addition, the IT 1041 and IT 4708 returns have been updated to include 2 new reporting lines, a non-refundable business credits total line and a refundable business credits total line. The updated process is more user-friendly and intuitive as compared to before. As we near the end of this presentation, I would like to bring up some helpful tips. First-time filers who intend to make payments using a check or money order, an Ohio Universal Payment Coupon, or OUPC, should submit the PTE and Fiduciary Income Tax registration from prior to making a payment, ensuring the account is properly set up for timely application of the payment. The Ohio Department of Taxation voluntary disclosure programs provide an opportunity for filers to come forward and disclose their unpaid tax liabilities without the risk of incurring expensive penalties. In addition, the department does not conduct a look-back prior to the first year included with the voluntary disclosure agreement. Pass-through entities must provide a signed and dated voluntary disclosure agreement, VDA, with the IT 4708 PT returns for the current and prior 3 years, and include full payment of the tax and statutory interest due. Fiduciaries must provide the signed and dated VDA with the current and prior 3 years of the IT 1041 fiduciary return and include full payment of the tax and statutory interest due upon application. With successful completion of the VDA program, entities can enjoy the protections provided by the agreement, including no look-back prior to the VDA period and no penalties. Starting November 12, 2025, you'll notice an updated format for all pass-through entity and fiduciary income tax notices. The revised verbiage and look is more modern and it complies with the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act rules. Let's review the available payment options for the pass-through entity and fiduciary income tax. Electronic check via the eServices. Beginning November 12, 2025, taxpayers will have the option to make payments using an electronic check through the Ohio eServices portal. ACH credit. Payments can be made via ACH credit through the Ohio Treasurer of State. Paper check or money order. These must be submitted along with the appropriate payment coupon. To respond to a billing notice with documentation, you may upload documents through the eServices portal, available starting November 12, 2025. Use the online notice response system, accessible at tax.ohio.gov/ONRS, or mail your response to the Ohio Department of Taxation, P.O. Box 2476, Columbus, Ohio, 43216-2476. Our team is here to assist in any way we can. Feel free to contact us by phone, email, or mail. Thank you for listening today.
Thank you, Cameron. That concludes the pass-through entity and fiduciary income tax presentation, and we will proceed directly into our next segment. Coming to us now from the Employment and School District Withholding team, I'm glad to introduce Loretta Hall.
Good morning. My name is Loretta Hall. I am a tax examiner specialist in the Employment Tax Division, and I'm here to go over some Ohio and school district withholding information with you this morning. So first, let us get through our disclaimer. The information provided in this presentation is given for general guidance only and does not constitute legal or tax advice. Any legislative or legal changes that take place after the date of this presentation may change the accuracy of the content. Additionally, facts and circumstances applicable to your situation may impact any information provided herein. And just a note, please be aware that any account information, company information you see in the slides is fictitious. The screenshots were generated from our testing environment, so do not be concerned that we are sharing your information with the public. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda. Withholding updates, filing requirements, reminders, Ohio Tax eServices, using Ohio Tax eServices, W-2 1099 upload, resources, and contact information. So let's take a look at our withholding updates. Just briefly, we see here that there was not much school activity. We had 2 districts that expired, that is Alexander and Clinton Massey, and we also had 2 of them that changed their rates, Danville and Mount Gilead. Also, there were 18 renewals. And we want to go over some more information about school district concerning our IT-4. The IT-4 is the employee exemption certificate for the Ohio tax as well as the school district. We advise that you canvass your employees annually so that they will provide you with the most current information about their school district primarily. We know that people can forget to change their addresses with their companies. Considering so much is done online, we forget about changing information. So you'll want to take a look at that each year. Also, you can use our finder on our website. That will allow you to look up the employee's address and find their school district. If you are showing a discrepancy between the IT-4 provided by the employee and the finder, please use the county auditor website for that address. It will provide the definitive answer to what school district they live in, because the school district tax is based on the address of your employee. And also note that you can find our resources out on our website, and we will have some updates to our withholding tables in October. So continuing on about the withholding changes, House Bill 96, our budget bill, has required us to change our withholding tables. So the fiscal year will go into effect October 1st. You'll be able to see that on our website. And also the fiscal year 2027, that will not be effective until July 1st of 2026. So take a look at the website so that you'll stay up to date. Now we're going to move into our filing requirements and reminders. Now right here, I want to let you know that every employer maintaining an office or transacting business within the state of Ohio and making payment of any compensation to an employee, whether that employee is a resident or a non-resident, must withhold income tax. And compensation for Ohio follows the standards of compensation laid out by the IRS. So let's take a look at the filing requirements now that we know who must file. We have an electronic filing requirement, and this has been in effect since January 1 of 2015, so it's not a new thing. We do have a filing frequency job that runs in the fall. Now, I want to just let you know that it did not run in the fall of 2024 because we were preparing to go into the new system. So whatever frequency you were using then, you should still be using now. Now, you can request a change of your frequency at any time. However, please know that it will not take effect until January of the following tax year. The system will allow you to file multiple returns in that filing period. So say, example, you want to move from quarterly to monthly, and you want to do that this year. However, making that request, if we approve it, it will not take effect until January of the following year. But you can file multiple returns within the quarter. So fourth quarter starts, you can file October, and you can file again for November, and you can file again for December by selecting the fourth quarter each time. Now, I want to remind you here that the IT 942, yes, I know how much you love the 942, it has been discontinued. It has been removed from our code, and that was effective tax year 2024. It is no longer available on our website. It is not housed in the new system. Please do not pull a copy from your file and white out the date and change it. Do not look it up on the internet to use it. I know you can find it on the internet probably. Do not use it. It's no longer acceptable. You must use the IT 941, and it must be filed electronically. The annual reconciliation for 2025 is due February the 2nd, 2026. Okay, now let's talk about eServices. Ohio Tax eServices. This is our new system. Many of you have already started using it. Employer withholding went into the new system December 9th of 2024. So there are a lot of things I know you already discovered, and this is a list of some of those things that you probably have discovered. There's some common tasks now that previously you probably did by submitting a account update form or sending us a letter or making a phone call, but you can do them yourself now. So some of these items are making a name change or an address change. Also viewing and responding to letters that we issued. So if you can't find a paper one you got in the mail, they're now housed electronically in eServices. Now this does not apply to notices you received from us prior to December 9th, 2024. Okay, so and you can also view your account balances, request a penalty abatement, update your federal ID number. Now this is a correction only. You cannot change your current federal ID number on your withholding account to an all new one. If you receive a new one, you must apply for a new withholding account. You can also take a look at your transcripts, close an account, or reopen an account. So now let's see, the gateway. The gateway is still active. You need to use the gateway to initially register your company or change user access. Now, there are some new things going on with your IT 501 and your SD 101. Those have to be filed with a payment. Yes, prior to the new system, we did allow the flexibility of sending in a paper return. Unfortunately, actually, it's not unfortunate. It makes it better for you to do the process all together. So the new system will require that you make a payment at the end of filing your IT 501 and your SD 101. And also, this plays into our filing requirements because not only did that OAC change affect the filing, it is actually filing and paying electronically. And another thing with your SD 101 and your IT 501, you will not be able to file a zero liability. It is not required. So if you don't have a liability for that period, do not file. And we have a new account series. It will start with the 55 number. We also have Pilot. Pilot is a virtual assistant, helps you find information that you're looking for. It is not a live chat. However, we do have a live chat. This will allow you to log in between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. Monday through Friday and chat with one of our many examiners. They can answer your questions in real time. So please take advantage of that. Now, again, you do need to still use the gateway, so you have to have an OHID. If you're new to withholding, you're a new business, you do need to register for your OHID to access the gateway. Now, you will not see transactions for employer withholding on the gateway. You will generate a link that will take you to eServices. Now, this will change in December. So that's some good news for a lot of you, that you will not have to log into the gateway to access the link to eServices. You'll be able to log in with your OHID and go directly to eServices. And once you click on the link for eServices, you'll land on a splash page. And you click that link again. It will show you a list of all the taxes currently housed in OH Tax. And once you're there, you will see your summary page. You'll automatically land on the summary page. However, there are some items you can click into: important notifications, settings, and additional services. Under additional services, you will see a link to view many of the features that are now available in OH Tax. So now let's talk about using Ohio Tax eServices. The first thing we are going to talk about is online registration. So now, again, right now, you still need to log into the Ohio Business Gateway. So you will use your OHID, log into the gateway, land on the dashboard. Again, as I stated earlier, click on the link to the eServices. If it's a new business, you're going to select set up a business with ODT. So that means that you are now entering the federal ID number, the company name, and some other information. It will guide you through. And when you get to the end of it, it will assign you a number. That number, again, starts with the 55. Now, once you have that, you're ready to start doing your withholding business. You can file and pay at any time. You'll also receive a confirmation in the mail about your account, as well as it will be electronically available in eServices. Now, once you add the company information, you would, as I just stated, go out and register. The link is actually register a new business tax account. All right, so once you click into the link, you will see the taxes that are available to register for, and you will click on the withholding tax option. That's what we're talking about this morning, withholding tax. And again, that's going to walk you through the system, and you'll automatically receive that identification number. So let's move on and talk about submitting forms and payments. This is what you're going to be doing. Now we have submitting the forms and making a payment. Let's talk about number 2. We see 1 and 2 on the screen. So let's go to number 2 first. This is make a payment. It is making a payment only. The option is there. You shouldn't have to use it very often at all. It should be rare. Primarily would be if you received a bill or an assessment notice from the department, you'll go out, click on bill and assessment and make that payment. Again, it should be rare that you need to make a payment only. What you're going to really do and focus on is number 1, file and pay now. This allows you to complete the information on your IT-501 or your SD-101, and then at the end of that process, make the payment. This is very important to do because it will populate into your annual reconciliation at the end of the year, the IT-941, not the 942. That's gone, remember? So at the end of the year, you want your 941 to look good. So make sure that you are always selecting file and pay now. And your payment methods, you can also save that now in eServices. Once you've entered it the first time, you can decide if you want to save that information for future use. So let's talk now about refunds. Everyone's favorite, refunds. So how do you get your refund? Normally, you're going to get your refund by filing your annual reconciliation and requesting it on the annual reconciliation itself. If you've already filed the original, you would go out and select amend your annual reconciliation. Now we have a new option when you are logged into eServices in your account section. If you see you have a credit balance, you can select more. And once you do that, it's going to open up and you're going to look for the tile that says refunds and request a refund. When it opens, this refund actually could be more than 1 year. So this number, whatever number you see on your summary screen, is a cumulative number. It could be the sum total of multiple filing periods. So then you're going to select your tax year, click the information, and at the end of it, you want to make sure to attach documentation that will substantiate the overpayment. Please attach documentation or an explanation. And once it's reviewed, the refund will be issued. Now, if you discover that your liability is actually incorrect when you review the account, please amend the annual reconciliation. That will not happen through this system. You'll need to go back out and select your annual reconciliation and amend it. All right, W-2 1099 upload. Now, this is an annual item as well. And the upload is due the same time as your reconciliation. And for 2025, it's going to be due February 2nd, 2026. Currently, there are no changes to the specifications. And all of the income statement submissions, as I stated, the due date is on the screen. Ohio law requires all employers and retirement system payers to electronically file the income statements. So not only are you filing and paying electronically, you need to file your income statements electronically. And that's going to be your W-2s and your 1099-Rs. The 1099-Rs have been required electronically for several years now. And we have the department codes that show this information. We've got ORC 5747.07, 5747.071, and the OAC 5703-7-19. And a fun fact, more than 99.75% of employer withholding taxpayers are currently filing electronically. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. Now let's take a look at the files that are acceptable. We have the W-2 text file. The department follows the W-2 layout required by the Social Security Administration. However, we have some modifications, so you'll want to take a look at our specs online. We have the W-2 CSV file. That is a simplified file where you are entering the data into a spreadsheet and you will upload it through the eServices. And we have the 1099 text file. Also, that layout is one that's required by the IRS in publication 1220. Now, you notice I skipped one. This is our new one, W-2 manual entry submission. This is a manual entry directly in eServices. So if you have a very few number, I would recommend that you try this. You enter it directly in eServices, submit it, and you're done. Okay, so now let's go ahead and, as you can see here, once you enter, if there are any errors, the upload will be flagged. It will show the errors. It will give you line items, and you can go back and make those corrections because you won't be able to complete the upload without making the corrections. And right now, W-2Cs can be uploaded, but they cannot be manually entered. Okay, so let's take a quick look at submitting your W-2s manually. So in step one, again, right now we're logging into the gateway. Click our link to eServices. So step two, once you are on your summary page, in the account section, you'll find a direct link, upload income statements. Once you click on that link for upload income statements, the next screen, you're going to find in the income statement upload box, enter annual wage statements. Enter annual wage statements, okay? And that's going to give you a drop down. You'll select the tax year that you want to upload, do the manual entry for, and click next. And the first thing you're going to do is enter the employer information. This is the company information. And then you're going to hit next. And it's going to show you the icon so that you can add. This is adding your employee records. And after you enter all of the employee information, we click next again. If there is an error, you will see that flagged immediately. So you're going to see this icon, click there. It will show you what your error is, and you can make that change, the correction, immediately. And you're going to click next. If you need to add an additional employee, you select the add again. Once you have entered all of your employees, you're going to click here where it says next. That's going to take you to your review screen. So now this is where you'll see the number of employees that you entered, the totals of the dollar amounts that you entered. If you see anything that doesn't look right, you can go back to the previous screens, select the record, and make a change to it. So once you click next from your review screen, you'll find your confirmation page. This will be your only confirmation. Previously, we sent out emails, but this system will not send you an email. This will be your only confirmation that you submitted your W-2 information. And of course, you can come back into the system and look and see what you've done. Couple of notes about the 1099s. The 1099-R for retirement, those have been accepted for many years. Now you can do the miscellaneous, the NEC, as well as the 1099-G. For more information and specifications, as well as tutorials and FAQs about uploading, please check our website. And some reminders, because we do get calls about this. We're unable to accept PDFs. I know we like PDFs, but we're unable to accept PDFs or PDF that has been converted to a TXT file or a CSV file. They will reject. Also, the 4-digit school district code is required for your files. You need it for your upload as well as when you're doing your manual entry. If there is a school district, the code must be entered. Now, the Social Security number, that is also required. When you're doing your files and your manual entry, you will need the full Social Security number. You do not need the full Social Security number when you're issuing the forms to your employees. You can choose to redact or truncate that information. If you have any concerns, questions about the 1099 upload, please submit those concerns and questions through eServices using our send a message option. And always, with the electronic filing, the IT3, paper IT3 is not required. Again, take advantage of the send a message option now available in OHTax eServices. And here's our resource page. So you can find our W-2 information page. There's a whole page just for that. The withholding tables, assistance through eServices messages, our codes, frequently asked questions, and of course a page dedicated to employer withholding and school district withholding information. And our contact information. If you need to visit us, our street address. As always, you can call us. You can follow us on social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And please sign up for our tax alerts. Anything that we send out, you'll find it, and we can send it directly to you through the tax alerts. And I want to thank you for your time this morning. You have a great day.
Thank you, Loretta. We will now pause for another short break, and we will return at 11:50 for our final presentation of the day. Welcome back, and thank you for sticking around for our full program throughout this morning. We have reached our final presentation of this OVTA. Speaking today about important tax-related updates in Ohio's 2026-2027 state operating budget, I am pleased to introduce Tim Lynch and Adam Schwiebert.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Ohio Department of Taxation Virtual Tax Academy session on the state biennial budget, House Bill 96. Tim Lynch, my colleague, and I'm Adam Schwiebert. We're excited to bring you this session today. Tim, we got the call back again for the budget session. So I don't know, maybe we've been doing something right, maybe not, maybe they're just desperate.
That could be the desperation, but it always feels good to come here and present for the OVTA. As Adam said, my name is Tim Lynch. I serve as the Policy Director for the Ohio Department of Taxation.
Yeah, and I'm Adam Schwiebert. I serve as Legislative Director for the Department of Taxation. Tim and I both have the opportunity to be deeply involved with the creation, the enactment, and the implementation of the state biennial budget bill, House Bill 96 for this biennium. So there's a lot of information to unpack, a lot of updates we want to make tax practitioners and taxpayers aware of. So this is an opportunity to talk just a little bit about some of the changes involved with the state budget bill and give you a heads up going forward. So, the plan for today, the overview. We are not going to go through every single solitary change of the tax code in today that was included in House Bill 96. Tim and I are going to get the hook after about a half hour, and I don't think anyone wants to sit through a 3-hour dissertation on all the tax changes, so we'll spare you on that. We will hit some of the highlights though. It's the changes involving personal income tax, sales and use, the exemption changes there, commercial activity tax, excise, and just some miscellaneous overall changes. Stepping back though, kind of the 30,000 foot view, the budget process is both a marathon and a sprint. The budgeting process generally begins about a year before the budget bill is finally enacted. State agencies get together and they pull together all their requests, whether it's for policy changes or funding amounts, of what they would like to see for the next 2 years, the next 2 state fiscal years. Those requests are all compiled together with the Office of Budget and Management. Decisions are made. What does the executive branch wish to do for its budget proposal? Eventually, those decisions are made, and we see a budget bill introduced. House Bill 96 was introduced in February of this year, and that just kicks off the legislative process then. From there, if we all remember our Schoolhouse Rock lessons, the budget goes first to the Ohio House of Representatives, where it goes to the House Finance Committee, and there it has many hearings from state agencies, interested parties, everyday Ohioans, talking about how they view the budget bill, what changes they would like to see, what things they support, what things they'd like to see mended. A lot of public thought and input is integrated into that process. Eventually, you're going to see a House substitute bill come out, which is really the House's first round of changes, followed by an omnibus amendment, which is the House's second round of changes. Eventually, that bill is voted out of committee, House Finance Committee, where it moves on then to the full Ohio House of Representatives, where it gets its full vote, where it needs to pass out of there. Then, as we recall, we jump over to the Ohio Senate, where the whole process is repeated over again. It goes to the Senate Finance Committee, has a large number of hearings, a lot of public input, and a lot of opportunities for public to weigh in on the changes in the budget bill there. From there, it has another substitute bill, Senate's changes, omnibus amendment, another round of changes. Then it moves to a committee vote, then to the full Senate. And then we go to a place, once each chamber has passed a version, called conference committee, where those 2 different versions of the operating budget are hashed out between the 2 houses. Once they resolve all the differences, they put together what's called a conference committee report, which is just going through line by line and deciding which side, House or Senate, which option they're going to go with. The conference report is what we agreed to between the House and the Senate, and that is then sent back to both chambers for yet another vote, democracy in action. And that conference report then is approved by both the chambers. And that then sends the bill to the governor's desk, where he has a decision to sign the bill, which he did, and any line item vetoes which you would like to make. So there's a lot of opportunity for input, for change. Certainly we see changes throughout the budget process as we go. Tim and I do our best to track each and every one of them. And at the end of the day, you get a operating budget that will serve the people of Ohio for the next 2 fiscal years. Definitely a broad piece of legislation appropriating billions of dollars, containing thousands of different policy changes. So yeah, we are just uncovering a sliver of that today, but happy to walk you through some of the highlights of all that's included.
Yeah, and as Adam was mentioning, besides just policy changes, you've got all the appropriations for the state that are made for the next 2 years. Unfortunately, Adam and I were not successful in getting some appropriations to have a big song and dance routine or some cartoons like Schoolhouse Rocks, as Adam mentioned, to go through the civics lessons. But, you know, we go on, we persist.
Next biennium, maybe.
Maybe next time.
Yeah.
So as we're going to start into income tax here. So big changes in income tax, but before we get into it, Adam, you know, about 15 years ago, do you know how many marginal tax brackets we had in Ohio?
Ooh, quiz. I didn't know we were quizzing each other.
quizzing you.
I'm going to guess about 9.
You are correct. We had 9 brackets with a top rate of over 6%. So over the last 15 years, the legislature has been whittling away at that and have come to a flat tax. We will have 1 tax bracket as of tax year 26, but for tax year 25, we will still have 2 tax brackets. The first bracket is at 2.75% for those Ohioans making between $26,000 and $100,000 of income. And as I said, for tax year 26, we will get to 1 tax bracket, and that rate will be 2.75%. Now, for those of you out there who are still filing extended returns through October 15th, just a shout out for that deadline coming up. Not that you weren't aware of it. The current tax brackets for 2024 are still in effect at 2.75% and 3.5%. But the legislature also made a few other changes to the Ohio state income tax. Typically, when we cut brackets and cut rates, the General Assembly will freeze the indexing on those tax brackets. By that, we mean, you know, tax brackets each year will bump up just a little bit with the rate of inflation, but the General Assembly has frozen that for the next 2 tax years. And they've also put limits on the personal and dependent exemptions and the joint filer credit. For Ohioans in tax year 25 who make over $750,000, you will not be able to take those exemptions and credits. And then for tax year 2026, filers making more than $500,000 will not be able to. So you will, in tax year 25, have to be under $750,000 of income to take those, and in tax year 26, under $500,000 in modified adjusted gross income. They also made some changes to withholding. The Ohio General Assembly set aside money in both fiscal years and fiscal year 25 and 26 for withholding cuts, about $100 million to be made in the current fiscal year, and in the following fiscal year, $215 million. So a little bit of breaking news. We are going to see some withholding changes, putting more money into Ohioans' pockets now instead of when they go and file and have to file for a refund. So October 1st, this was just decided, October 1st, we're going to see some withholding changes. So please be aware and on the lookout for tax alerts. If you are a preparer or a payroll managing company, be on the lookout for those because those will go into effect as of October 1st. Now, there were also changes to income tax withholding on retirement benefits, and this is for school district income tax. You know, as Adam was explaining, our budget process starts well in advance, in the summer prior to the release of the budget. And, we ask our staff, what do you see? What are issues you see that we can fix in the budget with changes to the revised code? And one issue that we've seen pop up over the last couple years was with school district income tax and quarterly estimated payments. And we discovered when we dug into it that more new retirees were getting penalty and interest assessments for failure to file quarterly estimated payments. And a lot of those came from wage earners that had always been withheld for school district income tax if they lived in a school district with the income tax. So we went ahead and we got legislation through as part of this budget that would give them the option to request their retirement benefits be withheld for school district income tax from the state pension funds that exist, the 5 funds that exist. And then moving on, a new deduction was created for donations made to pregnancy resource centers of $750, and that will be available for tax year 25. So when you go to file at the beginning of next year, if you have made a donation or will by the end of this tax year, you can go ahead and take that deduction on your return. And then, Adam, we've got the campaign contribution tax credit that is had its ups and downs in the General Assembly. It has been repealed, it has been reinstated, and once again has been repealed. So as of tax year 26, the $50 campaign contribution credit will no longer exist and be available for Ohioans to take on their Ohio income tax return.
Whew, that's a lot.
There was a lot, but I think there's a lot of good stuff in there for Ohioans.
Yeah. Shifting gears a little bit to sales and use tax, this was a fairly significant rewrite of a number of, or elimination of existing sales and use tax exemptions. Won't go into the details of each of them because they can really get into the weeds, and it can be very fact specific depending on how that exemption has been or has not been utilized by taxpayers or vendors across the state. But just to call out a few highlights, there has been a number of exemptions closed, particularly dealing with motor vehicle rentals. When a car is repaired or serviced under warranty, you go into your dealership to have your vehicle serviced under warranty, and you get a loaner car that the dealership gives you, and they might have acquired that from a rental agency. Historically, the sales tax on that rental has been exempt. That'll be no longer. That'll be taxable. Refrigerated food vending machines, that exemption will be closed. Advertising materials or catalogs used to advertise retail sales, that is an exemption that will be going away as well. Purchases by direct marketing vendors of items used in print advertising, things like tangible personal property used to produce advertising materials, that exemption will be going away. Telecom services used in qualified call centers generally being about 50 employees who are dedicated toward call center type responsibilities. There's some definitions in the code about what was a qualified call center or not. This is for the sales tax for that telecom service that would normally be exempt but now will be taxable. Tangible personal property used in formatting, editing, storing, and disseminating data or info by electronic publishing. Again, we would encourage taxpayers to look at the changes in the code and how that may benefit or impact their business. And then finally, a 25% refund of sales and use tax for providers of electronic information service. Again, this is a refund actually that will be closing that 25%. So we encourage taxpayers to check out those details as well as how that may impact your personal situation. And finally, there is a $750 monthly vendor discount cap that's being enacted on House Bill 96. Under current law, pre-House Bill 96, Ohio has offered a vendor discount of 0.75% for those vendors that timely file and remit their sales tax on a monthly basis. There has been no cap previously, so whatever that vendor discount was, the taxpayer would be entitled to that discount. Going forward with House Bill 96, they're going to cap that amount at $750 per month. So it's something to be aware of, more so for the large vendors, for your smaller mom and pop shop types. Probably not as big a deal for them. But again, fairly significant rewrite in some of these exemptions that are being closed, and we wanted to call them out so people are aware of them going forward, because that will be an impact on some taxpayers across the state.
Hey, Adam, real quick, if my math skills are mathing correctly, a $750 monthly vendor discount cap, that would be on what, $100,000 in tax remitted to the state?
Yeah, pretty significant amount there.
Okay.
Yep. Math on the fly, Tim. It's impressive.
Moving on, in the last biennium budget, there were a lot of big changes to the commercial activity tax. As you probably recall, you will no longer be a commercial activity tax payer unless you have over $6 million in gross receipts. I want to thank everybody out there who worked with our CAT division to cancel those taxpayer accounts that were under that threshold. The only change we have here is for a net operating loss credit that was a carryover from the former corporate franchise tax. So this has been around since the inception of the CAT, and the NOL credit is currently refundable or non-refundable, but was set to go refundable as of 2030. The change here made by the General Assembly was to continue that credit as a non-refundable credit beyond 2030. So very, very easy, shouldn't affect too many taxpayers there. Now we're moving on to everybody's favorite taxes, excise taxes. In the last few years, there have been a number of changes around a host of Ohio's excise taxes. This year, nothing at the state level, more at the local level. So the General Assembly expanded the ability of counties to levy a cigarette tax. Currently, only Cuyahoga County has that ability. So if you are a cigarette wholesaler doing business in Summit, Hamilton, and Franklin counties, they now have the ability to levy a cigarette excise tax. So be on the lookout in the future when these counties act on that and potentially create a county cigarette tax. We will be issuing guidance and tax alerts for those in that business out there, especially those doing business in those 3 counties. Now, mentioned Cuyahoga County. Cuyahoga County was also authorized to expand their existing excise taxes, not only on cigarettes, but also liquor and alcohol. They have not done so yet. That will be in front of the county and the voters should they choose to act on that, which is likely since they sought that permission from the General Assembly in the budget. So again, be on the lookout for tax alerts from the department when and if any of these taxes are levied in those counties.
All right, now just kind of the catch-all miscellaneous portion of the presentation. Again, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of different tax changes. We just wanted to highlight a few that didn't fall into some of the bigger buckets, but yet would have a pretty significant impact depending on the taxpayer type and how which taxes we're talking about here. The first is for pass-through entity payments, for the estimated payments, the deadlines for some of those. As we put together House Bill 96, one of the items that we realized was that there were different due dates for estimated payments depending on the type of entity that we're talking about. So for those entities that are electing and withholding, those pass-through entities, those estimated payments for the second and third payment are going to be moved by 1 month. What this will do is this will align the due dates for all estimated payments going forward. And so it's just a simpler, more streamlined process. We don't have different due dates for different payment types depending on how you're structured. The same dates will be the same regardless across the board throughout the year. So we think that'll help eliminate or reduce some confusion. It'll be a more streamlined process. Second, there's an increase in the lead abatement tax credit. So under current law, taxpayers can take up to a $10,000 credit, income tax credit, for expenses incurred in lead abatement. So you have a older home in the state, and you have some lead paint because it's a very historic structure, and you want to abate that lead from your home. Or it's a good thing to do for public health, for a lot of good health reasons, and you incur expenses. Right now, you're limited up to $10,000 in expenses that you can apply toward that credit. House Bill 96 increases that amount from $10,000 to $40,000. So you could have, a pretty significant structure that incurs some pretty significant lead abatement costs. This is going to provide some additional relief to help reduce the cost of abating that lead in that structure, and it really will benefit certainly the inhabitants of that home. So we encourage folks across the state who have historic structures that they reside in, take a look at this credit, utilize it, because it has more higher ceiling now. So we want to make sure that taxpayers are well aware of that change, because it really can do some good across the state, particularly in some older homes. Third, there's a repeal of the school district income tax on estates. So again, when the tax department was working to put together its tax proposal, we looked at items in the tax code that really didn't make a lot of sense anymore, and we discovered that there is for school district income taxes, there is a separate form just for estates. So school district tax being applied to income generated by estates prior to that estate being separated out through the probate process. And what we found is there were very, very few taxpayers that were actually paying this tax. And it's a very small dollar amount that was actually going back to local school districts. And so we proposed repealing that tax on estates for school district income tax. We were successful in doing so. And so taxpayers don't have to worry about that anymore. It's not a significant financial impact whatsoever to school districts all across the state. It just reduces the number of forms, number of internal processes that we have to go through, for really small financial impact all across the state for those school districts that do levy an income tax in Ohio. And finally, fourth, shifting gears to property tax. We could spend a whole session on real property tax in the state and some of the debate that's gone around on that. One of the provisions that was included in House Bill 96 was a local permissive homestead exemption and owner-occupied credit. So stepping back, the state for many years has offered a homestead exemption for qualifying seniors and disabled individuals that helps reduce their property tax bill. It reduces their market valuation for their home. It reduces their property tax bill by a certain market value. So historically, it's been about $25,000 that you would reduce your market value of your home. And whatever the taxes against that $25,000 are, it's reduced your tax bill by that amount. That $25,000 increases with inflation now. Similarly, Ohioans enjoy an owner-occupied credit. If you own your home and occupy it, you get a 2.5% credit on your property tax bill. And the state of Ohio has reimbursed local governments for any foregone revenue due to the homestead exemption and the owner-occupied credit. These are tools that help just reduce property tax bills across the board for those who qualify. House Bill 96 creates a new option. This would allow boards of county commissioners to permissively enact a local homestead exemption and owner-occupied credit that would mirror the state homestead exemption and owner-occupied credit. This would provide some additional tax relief for homeowners and property owners in those communities, for those counties that wish to go forward and enact that. It is up to the Board of County Commissioners if they choose to wish to do so. So might be a conversation you have with your Board of County Commissioners if that is something that they wish to approve. The one big key here, and key difference, is that the state historically has always reimbursed local governments for that foregone revenue. This would be just foregone revenue to the local governments. The state would not be reimbursing that expense. That's just going to be lost revenue that the local governments will have to absorb. So it's a tool that they have at their disposal. It's entirely locally determined if that is something that they want to pursue or not. But that is an avenue that's available for potential property tax relief. Again, this is going to be, I think, an issue that we see more discussion on going forward, certainly, but this is one tool, at least in the real property realm, that will be available to local communities if they choose to utilize it going forward.
So getting into some additional resources here, these are two resources Adam and I use, pretty much every day, if not multiple times a day. The first being the Ohio Legislative Service Commission that does all the drafting of Ohio's legislation. They also do research and analysis of each bill, and they are an independent party that does work for the Ohio General Assembly. Their website is lsc.ohio.gov. And then the next one right there, the Ohio General Assembly, which their website, legislature.ohio.gov. You can go on there, you can search for any active legislation, you can search for past legislation from prior General Assemblies to find out when anything was enacted and what that bill looked like. Two other resources for you. The Ohio Office of Budget Management can be found at obm.ohio.gov. If you are interested in getting into Ohio's checkbook, they have everything there for full transparency and the state's fiscal health. And then, of course, you know it, you found your way here for the OVTA is tax.ohio.gov, the Ohio Department of Taxation's website. And as we mentioned earlier in the presentation, I highly encourage you to sign up for tax alerts if you have not already. When you navigate to that page on our website, you can sign up for all taxes, or you can choose which taxes apply to you, especially, some of the more niche taxes in there. So again, encourage you to sign up for tax alerts if you have not done so already.
Yeah, I can't stress those resources enough, because it is House Bill 96 is, I forget how many thousands of pages, it might be around 5,000. There is a voluminous detail out there that we encourage tax practitioners to review, and taxpayers, just every Bob and Betty Buckeye as well, because it does have an impact on individuals' finances every single day. And fortunately, the resources that both the Legislative Service Commission put out, as well as the General Assembly, it's written in a way that I think the average Ohioan can attempt to understand some of the heavy topics that are discussed, both in the tax realm as well as even outside of the tax side of the equation as well.
One other resource, Adam, on our website, as you mentioned, making things easier for the average Ohioan to understand. Our website also has a very comprehensive list of FAQs on any topic you can imagine involving Ohio taxes and fees. So if you go on there, it breaks it down by subject. There are multiple pages of FAQs pertaining to each tax that will get into some very, niche questions that are very fact-driven. That can help you out as well.
Yeah, so we highly encourage you to check out those resources, because Tim and I can only fit so much into a half-hour presentation, and there's certainly a lot more meat on the bones there than just what we've talked about today. So to kind of bring it all together, again, we could spend 3 hours going through the various details of House Bill 96, and I don't think anyone's really interested in listening to that long speech. But we want to be here to help you as a resource, and so the contact information from both Tim and I are provided right in front of you. If you have questions about, hey, what was included in House Bill 96, or really, frankly, any other tax bill that's been moved and enacted through the General Assembly, we want to be a resource to you. Obviously, our staff on the various operating divisions of the department is always available to answer questions that may arise. So we encourage you to reach out to the department, whether directly through email or phone calls, or even you can come in. We have a visitor center as well. We want to serve you, because we want to make sure that Ohio's tax law is understandable, it's able to be followed as written, and we want to be a resource to you to make your life a little easier. We hope that today's presentation is helpful in achieving that, but where there's always going to be questions down the road, so we want to be there for you.
Yeah, and one other additional, contact point for the department, if you have any desire to have any kind of educational opportunity for groups, please contact tax outreach at tax.ohio.gov. We can provide educational opportunities for different groups around the state. We can tailor those, make them virtual or in person, depending upon the size of the group. So please, again, reach out to tax outreach at tax.ohio.gov.
Well, Tim, I think that might about wrap it up for this year's this biennium's presentation on the House Bill 96 State Biennium operating budget. Can't wait to see as the next 2 years unfolds.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, and maybe we'll see him again in 2 years.
Maybe, we'll see. Well, thank you for your time today. We hope you got something out of this. And again, we're happy to be a resource going forward. So we will see you next time.
Thank you. And once again, thank you to all of our presenters throughout today's event. And thank you for attending this edition of the OVTA. It has been a great pleasure for us to have the opportunity to address you this morning. We thank you for attending, and I want to remind you that in case you would like to review any information that you heard here today, these videos will be posted soon to the Department of Taxation's YouTube channel. That's all, and thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.